Chapter 142. Tiger Love nodded and immediately flew out. He admired Lei Xingfeng's decision. He didn't like indecisive people. Xian Feng sat at the front of the boat as the rain poured down on him. In the sky, bolts of lightning struck down one after another. He noticed a strange phenomenon. Almost all of the bolts of lightning struck the tall mountain peaks, not a single one falling into the lake. Every time a bolt of lightning struck down, sparks would fly from the mountain peak. Lei Xingfeng secretly rejoiced that he hadn't stayed on the mountain peak. Even if he cultivated the lightning attribute, he wouldn't have been able to withstand such terrifying lightning strikes. Perhaps even Mad Eagle and Tiger Love wouldn't have been able to withstand it. This was the power of nature. It wasn't something humans could withstand. After some calculations, Lei Xingfeng shook his head slightly. He knew that he should just stay on the lake and cultivate. Tiger Love flew close to the surface of the lake. In just a few moments, there were no survivors on the lake. Everyone who had fallen into the water had been slaughtered. After a while, Mad Eagle flew back alone. He said, "Killed one, escaped one." Ha ha! That seventh ring sage was quite alert. He escaped very quickly. However, he was heavily injured by me. He won't die, but it'll be difficult for him to maintain his seventh ring cultivation unless he can find a high-level sage with a green ring. Lei Xingfeng said, "Unfortunately, we can't find their base." Mad Eagle said, "Ha! Unless they have a ninth ring sage. Otherwise, they'll probably give up." Tiger Love said, "They're always a scourge." Mad Eagle said, "It's fine. I left a mark on that guy. Ha! No matter what, we'll be able to find their base." Tiger Love nodded. "I was wondering, how could you let that person go? I see. This kind of mysterious organization is the most annoying. Even if they're no longer a threat, they'll still disgust you." Lei Xingfeng said, "I'm going to cultivate here for a while and wait for news from Ripple Origin City." The two of them nodded. Although they did not understand why Lei Xingfeng wanted to cultivate here, they were both guards. Once their master made a decision, they would not question it. Mad Eagle said, "I'll leave for a while and follow that person. Hee, I want to see where their organization is. Tiger, you stay here and guard it." Tiger Love smiled and said, "Leave it to me. I will guard this place." Lei Xingfeng had no objection. He also wanted to know where the Masker organization was. Once he found their nest, he would go back to find help and eliminate the hidden danger in one fell swoop. Mad Eagle immediately flew into the air, took a moment to determine the direction, and disappeared without a trace. Tiger Love came to the stern and asked, "Where are we going to cultivate?" Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "Just circle around the peak." He still did not dare to go up the mountain to cultivate. He only dared to circle around the peak. This way, he could maximize his strength. Tiger Love agreed and rowed the boat all the way to the foot of the mountain. Lei Xingfeng sat at the bow and cultivated. It rained heavily for 2 days, and Lei Xingfeng cultivated for 2 days. This time, even Tiger Love was surprised because he could sense that Lei Xingfeng's cultivation was increasing crazily. Unfortunately, on the 3rd day, the rain stopped and Lei Xingfeng stopped cultivating. In just 2 days, Lei Xingfeng was about to break through. Tiger Love also saw the mystery. He asked, "Is it because of the thunderstorm?" Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "Yes, the thunderstorm can help me cultivate." He did not say much and only revealed a little. Tiger Love understood that this might be the secret of Lei Xingfeng's cultivation. Tiger Love sighed and said, "When I was your age, I was only a 1,000 Luan master, but I was already called a genius." Lei Xingfeng knew that from 16 to 20 years old, if there was no special opportunity or heaven-defying potential, it would be impossible to reach his current height. Actually, Tiger Love at this age, becoming 1,000 Luen master, was already quite amazing. He also knew his own weakness, which was that his promotion speed was too fast, and he had too few skills. He did not have time to make his own exclusive weapon and lacked specialized skills, so he did not have time to learn them. What he used was still instinctive attacks, although the power was not bad, but it was too monotonous. This was also why he preferred close quarters combat. This was a habit left behind from his training since young. At that time, he only learned close quarters combat and weapon attacks because he started learning at a young age. These were already deeply ingrained in his bones. Lei Xingfeng did not have time to correct this kind of flaw. His most important task now was to quickly raise his cultivation. It would be best if he could reach the 9th ring true body. At that time, he would carefully ponder and pursue it. Techniques and skills were much easier than raising his cultivation, so he was not in a hurry. Even if he could instinctively control lightning, Lei Xingfeng's attacks were actually not weak and were even very strong. This was not brought about by techniques, but because the lightning itself was strong to the extreme. Just based on this, it was not a problem to deal with a true master of the same level. This was also one of the reasons why Lei Xingfeng was not in a hurry. According to Lei Xingfeng's estimations, after another thunderstorm, he would very likely break through. Once he broke through, he would only need to consolidate his foundation, and then leave. The second thunderstorm, after waiting for 8 days, finally began. Lei Xingfeng immediately began to train. Condensing a 5th ring true body required a certain amount of Yinli, and within the Luen Yinli in his body, the proportion of Yinli was getting higher and higher. Once his Yinli surpassed Luen Yinli, he would be able to become a true treasure Luen Yin master and condense a 5th ring true body. The biggest difference between a 5th and 6th ring was Luen Yinli and Yinli. Once he reached 6th ring, he would become a true Yin master, and his entire body strength would be Yinli. This was the highest level of strength for a true master, one level higher than Luen Yinli and Luen Yinli. Lei Xingfeng was trying to break through from 4th ring to 5th ring. Large amounts of Yinli began to appear in his body and began to occupy the position of Luen Yinli. Once Yinli became dominant, everything would follow naturally. And this thunderstorm gave Lei Xingfeng this opportunity. Training in a thunderstorm, in the midst of thunder and lightning, the effects were incredible, especially here, where all the lightning was absorbed by the mountain peak. Not only was it safe to train on the lake, but the effects were also surprisingly good. Shihu rode the entire way. He knew that Xian Feng had reached a critical moment and was about to level up. He tried his best to be as gentle as possible as he rowed the boat into the water, gently stirring it. The boat moved very slowly on the surface of the lake. When the heavy rain hit the surface of the lake, it gave off a hua-hua-hua sound, mixed with the rumbling of thunder. Bolts of dazzling lightning continuously struck down, striking the mountain peak and creating countless sparks. It was especially eye-catching in the dusky night. Tiger Love was extremely envious. After these days of observation, he completely understood what a true genius was. Cultivation was like flying. He used 8 years to break through from 4th ring to 5th ring, and that was with the use of many Luen Yin rings. If he didn't have Luen Yin rings, he wouldn't even be able to break through from 4th ring to 5th ring in 10 to 20 years. But now, he saw that Lei Xingfeng had only stopped for a short period of time and was about to break through. Advancing from a 4th ring to a 5th ring was much easier than advancing from a 5th ring to a 6th ring. It wasn't a huge barrier. As long as one's Yinli was accumulated to a certain degree, it would naturally condense a 5th ring true body, which was why Xian Feng was very relaxed. He only continued to circulate the Luen Yinli in his body, drawing in the power of the lightning from the outside, circulating it over and over again. adding on the lightning stamp that the old man Lei Bao gave him, with the two complementing each other. He was about to reach his goal of advancing. Lei Yin rolled in his body. The power from the outside world crazily poured in. Unfortunately, all of the lightning was absorbed by the mountain peak. If only a strand of it came over, he would immediately break through. At this point, Lei Xingfeng understood that once he reached sixth ring true body, he could enter the air and directly undergo the baptism of lightning. He would definitely be able to break through crazily. That was what Elder Thunderstorm did in the past, and he succeeded. Elder Thunderstorm's success was something that Lei Xingfeng finally understood. He couldn't help but secretly rejoice. In the past, he was so daring. If he made a mistake, he would have turned into a pile of ashes. There probably wouldn't even be a trace of him left. He didn't dare to think too much. He quickly adjusted his state of mind and continued to cultivate. The Yinli in his body slowly increased, and in less than an hour after the rain stopped, he successfully condensed his fifth ring true body and became a true treasure Luan Yin master. Tiger Love sighed again. Comparing people to each other would lead to death, and comparing goods to goods would lead to throwing away. Everyone had their own lives. There was no point in being envious. Lei Xingfeng stood up, his joints crackling. He dived into the lake and took off his clothes to wash up. Condensing his fifth ring true body was equivalent to cleansing his body. Therefore, whether it was his strength or his body's toughness, it had increased by a large amount. Tiger Love said, "Congratulations." Lei Xingfeng popped his head out of the lake and laughed. "Ha ha, I'm lucky." Tiger Love cursed in his heart. This had nothing to do with luck. Lei Xingfeng quickly finished washing up and climbed onto the boat. He changed his clothes and said, "Uncle Ling hasn't returned yet." Tiger Love said, "He already sent me a message. He'll be here soon." Lei Xingfeng nodded. He began to consolidate his cultivation while waiting for Mad Eagle to return. At noon the next day, Lei Xingfeng and Tiger Love were eating when Mad Eagle silently landed on the boat. He smiled and said, "Great, there will be food as soon as you come back. It's better to be early than early, ha ha." Lei Xingfeng smiled and scooped a big bowl of rice for him. He said, "Let's eat together, Uncle Ling. Did you find the masker's base?" Mad Eagle's face reddened. He said, "No." Lei Xingfeng said, "Oh, you didn't catch up to that person?" Mad Eagle said, "I caught up and caught him. Unfortunately, he actually committed suicide." He shook his head and said, "A seventh ring expert would rather commit suicide than tell us where their base is. We have to be careful. I don't know how this organization is controlled, but even a seventh ring expert can't resist. I can't pry open his mouth." Lei Xingfeng said, "So the trail is broken." Mad Eagle nodded. "The trail is indeed broken. If we want to find their location, we might have to wait for them to appear again. But I believe they won't appear for the time being." Everyone knew that after this massacre, the maskers would definitely be cautious. Once they appeared again, it meant that they had absolute confidence in winning. That was why Mad Eagle said they had to be careful. Chapter 143. Lei Xingfeng said, "F***CK, what's going on?" He had a headache after provoking such an organization. Tiger Love said, "It's okay. We'll solve it eventually. We'll ask someone when we get back." Lei Xingfeng had so many brothers and sisters, and they all had some intelligence channels. Maybe they knew what organization this was. Mad Eagle said, "I suspect this maskers organization has a secret hidden space like us. If that's the case, the three of us won't be enough. If they have a secret hidden space, it's not strange that they have a ninth ring expert. They might even have stronger experts." Lei Xingfeng rubbed his chin and thought for a moment. He nodded and said, "Yes, I think something's wrong too. let's go back to Ripple Origin City first and see if they've received any news. We'll decide what to do next. Mad Eagle said, "It's best to go back. You've been out for a while." Lei Xingfeng smiled. "Yes, there are some things I need to deal with." I'll think about it," Mad Eagle said. "Although I didn't find the masker's base, I found the secret they used to track you. It's this thing." As he spoke, he took out a round ball and laughed. "A tracking ball. Hee, a very old-fashioned thing. As long as you crush it, the tracking marks on your body will disappear." As he spoke, he squeezed hard. In an instant, the tracking ball turned into fragments and fell through the gaps between his fingers. Lei Xingfeng said, "Hey, let me see it first." Mad Eagle scratched his head. "It's okay. This thing is easy to make. I'll make a few for you when I'm free." Lei Xingfeng said, "Okay, make a few for me in the future. This thing looks amazing." Mad Eagle sized up Lei Xingfeng and said in surprise, "Fifth ring. You're crazy. It's only been a few days." Lei Xingfeng giggled. "I was just lucky." What else could he say? This was not the time to show off. Ever since he obtained the secret technique from Old Thunderstorm, he had never had to worry about leveling up. He leveled up very quickly and smoothly without any bottlenecks. This speed of leveling up made Mad Eagle and Tiger Love envious. Even he himself felt that it was too smooth. Mad Eagle said, "There's something I need to remind you of." Lei Xingfeng asked curiously, "Remind me of what?" Tiger Love immediately smiled and said, "Old Eagle, it's not time yet." Lei Xingfeng asked, "What do you mean?" He was suddenly curious. Mad Eagle chuckled. "If you can still advance like this when you reach the 9th ring, then just pretend I didn't say anything." Hee. Lei Xingfeng was puzzled. "What do you mean?" Mad Eagle said, "If you advance too quickly, your foundation will be unstable. After you reach the 9th ring, it will be more difficult to advance again." Lei Xingfeng immediately breathed a sigh of relief. He was very careful about this. From the beginning, he had received guidance from Old Thunderstorm and knew the importance of a foundation. His aptitude was too good. After he advanced, he only needed to work a little harder to consolidate his foundation quickly, and it would not affect his advancement. Mad Eagle did not know this. Tiger Love said, "Don't mind what he said. Just be a little more careful." Lei Xingfeng nodded. "I will." He could still feel Mad Eagle's good intentions. He said, "Let's go back to Ripple Origin City. I think they should have news." Mad Eagle squatted down and said, "I'll carry you. Hee, when you reach the 6th ring, you can fly." Anduin said with certainty, "I didn't find Aslan. I sent a lot of people to ask around in the major sections. So far, no one named Aslan has been found. There are still 2 people who haven't returned. Well, they should be back in the next few days. Then we'll know. They went to a place far away." Lei Xingfeng was extremely disappointed. He smiled bitterly. Where are we going to find them? Damn it. He regretted not asking clearly. If he knew the name of the sect, it would be easier to find them. Now, it was like looking for a needle in a haystack. It was too difficult. Mad Eagle comforted him. "It's okay. When we get home, we'll send people to look for them." He believed that with the help of his sect, they should be able to find them. Lei Xingfeng said, "There are still 2 sects who haven't reported back." And Chun said, "Qian Zhenkuan and Anwu are the only ones who haven't returned. You have to know, if they want to use the Luan spot, they have to go with the caravan. They can't activate it by themselves. Well, they should be back in a few days." Lei Xingfeng nodded. "Okay, I'll wait for 2 days." And Chun couldn't be faster. 2 8th ring experts appeared in Ripple Origin City, giving him a lot of pressure. The sooner he got the news, the sooner he could send them away. If they stayed here, not only would he be unable to bear it, but Ripple Origin City would also be unable to bear it. The next day, Anwu returned to Ripple Origin City. He also didn't find Aslan. Lei Xingfeng was very depressed. He placed his hopes on Qian Zhengkuan. He had a good impression of this guy. Back then, he was the one who suggested Lei Jishan. Moreover, he forgot to pay him. This left a deep impression on him. On the third day, Qian Zhengkuan didn't appear. On the fourth day, he didn't appear. After waiting for almost 10 days, Lei Xingfeng was anxious. He found in Chun and asked, "Olden, why isn't Qian Zhengkuan back yet? Where did he go?" Anduin was even more vexed. He had already sent people to look for him, but it had been 5 or 6 days, and there was still no news. He had a faint bad feeling in his heart. He said, "Alas, I don't know. I already sent people 5 days ago, and there is still no news." Lei Xingfeng thought for a moment and said, "Which sect is it? If there's no other way, we'll find them ourselves." And Chun said, "100 United Sect. We need to go through 3 Luan spots to get there." Lei Xingfeng said, "Then let's go to the 100 United Sect to take a look." Mad Eagle and Tiger Love stood up. At this moment, a disciple rushed into the hall and shouted, "Marshal Uncle Qian has been carried back." And Chun's expression immediately changed. It was normal for Qian Zhengkuan to return, but it was very abnormal for him to be carried back. He said, "What's going on? Where is he?" Very quickly, a few disciples carried a stretcher in. Qian Zhengkuan was lying on the stretcher, his body covered in wounds. And Chun immediately said, "Go and get Elder Yan Wei." A disciple ran out to get him. Lei Xingfeng and the other 2 walked over. Mad Eagle frowned and checked for a moment. "It seems like his source was injured. I don't know who did it. The injuries are too serious. It's very difficult to recover." And Wu followed him in. He wiped his sweat and said, "It was the 100 United Sect." Lei Xingfeng said, "What's the reason?" No sect would attack a perfected person for no reason, especially when there was a perfected person from a large sect behind him. This would cause a sect war. And Wu said, "I don't know the exact reason. When I found him, he only said 1 sentence and completely fainted. He hasn't woken up since." A disciple came in and reported, "Elder Yen is here." Yan Wei came in and went to Qian Zhengkuan's side. After a brief examination, her face darkened. She said, "I'll try to treat him. The injuries are too serious, and it's been dragging on for a while. It's not easy to treat." As she spoke, she quickly pressed her hands on Qian Zhengkuan's body. A green light suddenly appeared, and the green light entered Qian Zhengkuan's body bit by bit. After a while, Yan Wei withdrew her hands and shook her head with a bitter smile. She flipped her wrist and took out a bottle of medicine. She poured it into Qian Zhengkuan's mouth and said, "It's not a problem to live, but it's difficult to keep your cultivation. Even if you're cured, it's already not bad if you have the cultivation of a mill wheel master." Xian Feng didn't expect Yan Wei to be proficient in medicine, a true master of the green Luan attribute. When her palm emitted a green glow, he knew that Qian Zhengkuan's life had been saved. It was no wonder that a practitioner of the green Luan attribute was sought after by all sections. Qian Zhengkuan groaned and opened his eyes, and Chun touched his long beard and said, "Zhengkuan, are you feeling better?" Qian Zhengkuan's face showed a trace of pain. After a while, he said, I'm back." And Chun nodded and said, "Don't worry, you're back in Ripple Origin City. Can you tell me what happened? Who was it that injured you? Was it someone from the 100 United Sect?" Qian Zhengkuan laughed bitterly and said, "That's right, it was someone from the 100 United Sect. I don't understand why they tried to kill me." Lei Xingfeng said, "Was it because they wanted to know about Aslan?" Qian Zhengkuan said, "I don't know why, but they said there was no Aslan. Later, I couldn't accept it, and went to ask some disciples of the 100 United sect. After I left, I met a second ring perfected person. I don't know why, but he suddenly tried to kill me. I barely managed to escape and was heavily injured. Later, I met and Wu Lei Xingfeng's side. He immediately understood that Aslan might really be in the 100 United sect. He said, "When that person tried to kill you, did he say anything?" Qian Zhongkuan thought for a while and said, "He scolded me and suddenly attacked. I didn't expect him to attack." Lei Xingfeng frowned and thought for a while. Even if he wanted to hide Aslan, he didn't have to be in a hurry to kill him. There must be something wrong. Was it just a perfected person who didn't like him? That didn't make sense. Qian Zhongkuan suddenly felt that something was wrong. He slightly activated his Lunli and suddenly realized that he had lost all his cultivation. Tears flowed down his face. Once he lost his perfected person cultivation, everything would be for naught. And Chun said, "What's wrong?" Qian Zhongkuan cried and said, "My cultivation is gone." And Chun glanced at Yan Wei. Yan Wei said, "Don't be discouraged. Your cultivation isn't completely gone. There's still a chance to recover." Qian Zhongkuan pulled himself together and said, "How can I recover?" Yan Wei smiled bitterly and hesitated. Qian Zhongkuan gritted his teeth and said, "Sister Yan, tell him the truth." And Chun nodded and said, "Tell him the truth." Yan Wei said, "If it's like this, and I do my best, you might be able to retain your cultivation as a mill wheel master. Yes, at least you can retain your one, Luan Shi. As for recovering your original cultivation, there are two ways. One is to use treasures, and the other is to find 100 Luan rings and a Luanine ring. With this, even if you fall to mill wheel master, you can cultivate again." Chapter 144. Qian Zhongkuan was in despair. Even if he could get his hands on a treasure, he would need a high-level true master of the green Luan attribute to refine it into medicine. As for Luan rings, there was still hope, but Luanine rings were too hard to find. Exine Feng spoke. I can solve it. I'll pay for the Luan and Luanine rings. Consider it as compensation for old Qian." He took out a bag and put it beside Qian Zhongkuan. "Here are 200 Luan rings for Luanine rings." Qian Zhongkuan was surprised. Then he was overjoyed. "Thank you, thank you." He was almost in despair. He didn't think he could recover. He was so excited that he was sweating. And Dun looked at the bag enviously and nodded. With these, Zhongkuan might be able to become a second ring sage. This is a blessing in disguise. Yan Wei didn't think Lei Xingfeng could take out so many Luan and Luanine rings. Then there's no problem. Lei Xingfeng turned around and said, "Uncle Ling, Uncle Tiger, let's go to the 100 United sect." He finally found a clue. How could he give it up? No matter what, he had to go. Mad Eagle said, "Okay, no problem. I need to ask him." He came to Qian Zhongkuan and said, "What's his name?" Qian Zhongkuan said, He's called Wu Ziki, a second ring sage. I don't know if that's his real name, but he's definitely a master of the 100 United sect." Mad Eagle said, "Wu Ziki. Okay, I got it." Qian Zhongkuan hesitated and said, "Senior Eagle, if possible, let him taste my pain." He wanted Mad Eagle to avenge him. Mad Eagle laughed. "Okay, if I don't like him, I'll let him taste your pain." Lei Xingfeng was filled with anticipation. He hoped that Aslan was at the 100 United Gate. That way, he would be able to find his little sister. He said, "Let's go." The earlier they left, the earlier they could reach the 100 United Gate. Mad Eagle and Tiger Love followed Lei Xingfeng out, and Chun and the others escorted the three of them to the Luan station. Seeing the three of them disappear into the Luan station, they finally relaxed. On Wu side, they're finally gone. Sigh, That was so F asterisk king scary. Yen Wei said, that Lei Xingfeng. I don't know what his background is, but I know that he is definitely not someone our Ripple Origin City can afford to offend. Fortunately, he left. I hope they won't come again. And Chun nodded and said, that's right. This kind of expert is too much of a threat to us. The sooner we leave, the better. In that case, Zhang Kuan can be considered to have done a meritorious deed. And Wu said, those Luan rings and Luanine rings are all for him? And Chun said, what? Are you moved? And Wu laughed. Aren't you moved? Hee, these are Luanine rings. Luan rings are fine, but Luanine rings are too rare. I don't know where they got so many. Look at that little guy. He didn't feel any pain when he gave them away. Yen Wei said, this only means that they don't lack Luanine rings. And Chun said, let's go back and discuss. Maybe we can exchange some Luanine rings with Zhengkuan. Lei Xingfeng and the others arrived at the 100 United Sect. After asking around, they found the location. Mad Eagle said, should we kill our way in or visit their higher-ups? Lei Xingfeng said, why do we kill our way in? I'm here to find someone, not to kill. His little sister might be in the 100 United Sect. He didn't want to randomly kill people. Whether it was Mad Eagle or Tiger Love, once they made a move, the repercussions would be too wide. According to his little sister's age, she couldn't cultivate yet. Once they fought, who knows if she would be affected. So before he got any definite information, he definitely didn't want to make a move. Mad Eagle laughed. Okay, let's go in and find someone. Tiger Love said, I hope the person you're looking for is here. Lei Xingfeng said, those people in front should be cultivators. Uncle Ing, go ask them. The 100 United Sect was also a residential area. It was divided into normal people and cultivators. The sects here were roughly the same. The difference in status between cultivators and normal people was that they lived in different areas. Mad Eagle stopped a few cultivators on the street and said, everyone, ask around. He released a bit of his aura to suppress them. Of course, he couldn't release all of his aura. Otherwise, these people would probably be lying on the ground. These cultivators were obviously low-level cultivators. The highest level was Wan Luan Shi. Intimidated by Mad Eagle's aura, their attitude became much better. A cultivator said, Senior, what can I do for you? This was Mad Eagle's advantage. When talking to cultivators, the other party wouldn't dare to act rashly if your level was high. Mad Eagle said, I'm here to find an old friend called Aslan. He's a real person. That person thought for a moment and said, I've never heard of a real person called Aslan. He turned and asked his companions, Have you heard of a senior called Aslan? Mad Eagle added, She's a woman. Oh, she's very old. Those cultivators shook their heads, indicating that they didn't know of such a person. Mad Eagle returned and said, No, they don't know. Lei Xingfeng's eyes flashed with disappointment. He said, Then let's go directly to the 100 United Sect and find their higher-ups. Tiger Love smiled and said they might not be willing to see us. He was well aware of the arrogance of these large sections. Without some strength, there was no need for them to visit. The other party would not bother with a few cultivators who came to visit unless they were high-level cultivators. Lei Xingfeng said, Let's go take a look first. If they don't want to see us, I don't mind showing my strength. This wasn't the time to be conservative. When it was time to show off his strength, he had to show it. Otherwise, those sects wouldn't bother with him. Mad Eagle smiled and said, Fight them? I like that. Lei Xingfeng said, I'm not fighting them. I'm just showing off my strength. I don't want to fight, for now. He had a lot to worry about and was a little restrained. Mad Eagle said, All right, I'll go. The three of them came to the inner sect entrance of the 100 United sect. Mad Eagle stepped forward and said, "I want to see your leader." "Well, if he's not here, then the great elder is fine too." The inner sect disciples guarding the door were all stunned. This was the first time they had seen such a cultivator. However, they didn't dare to offend him. One of them said, "Do you have a visiting card? Which sect are you from?" Mad Eagle smiled and said, "We don't have a visiting card. We're not from any sect. We just have something to discuss with your leader." Lei Xingfeng knew that something was wrong. Mad Eagle still couldn't help but play dumb. No matter what sect, if you spoke like that at the entrance, no one would care. It was too rude. As expected, the inner sect disciple guarding the door sneered and said, "You don't have a visiting card? All right, then do you know the higher-ups in our sect?" Mad Eagle said straightforwardly, "Nope." Lei Xingfeng thought for a bit and didn't go forward. He wanted to see how Mad Eagle would handle this. He knew that with Mad Eagle's words, the other party wouldn't care at all. The inner sect disciples guarding the door were also very pitiful. Their leader was a one-ring true master. The others were all mill-wheel masters, Wan Luan Shi, and Thousand Luan masters. They couldn't see through Mad Eagle's cultivation. They knew that these three were cultivators, but they definitely didn't know that they were all high-level true masters. The one talking to Mad Eagle was a mill-wheel master. He sneered and said, "You don't have anything, you can't go in. You guys can leave." According to their rules, even if a true master came, they had to block him. The only thing he didn't expect was that the other party was not only a true master, but also a high-level true master. High-level true masters were VIPs in any sect. They definitely couldn't be offended. Mad Eagle said, "I won't go, I won't go. I want to go in." Lei Xingfeng was dumbfounded. He didn't expect Mad Eagle to do this. Tiger Love laughed. "This guy has nothing better to do. Why would he bully these little guys for no reason? Looking for trouble." The inner sect disciple was angered by Mad Eagle. He said, "Sai, it's no use causing trouble. Go. The 100 United sect isn't something you can mess with." Mad Eagle said, "Who said I can't mess with them? I'm messing with them. Let me in." He was all talk and no action, just shouting nonstop. Lei Xingfeng said, "Uncle Tiger, forget it. You go and tell Uncle Ing to stop playing." Tiger Love went up and said, "Old Eagle, stop messing around." Mad Eagle laughed and said, "It's rare for me to be happy. All right, then I won't mess around. Little guy, this is my visitation card." He raised his hand and threw out a metal plate. It was a special metal plate with his information on it. If not for Lei Xingfeng's importance to the 100 United sect, he wouldn't have taken out his visitation card. The inner sect disciple took the metal plate and muttered, "You have a visitation card, but you didn't take it out earlier." Seriously, he lowered his head to look. The other disciples looked curiously at Mad Eagle, and the other two. They didn't know what these three guys were doing here, but they could tell that they weren't here to cause trouble. The inner sect disciple looked down, then raised his head again and looked at Mad Eagle in disbelief. His lips were trembling. After a while, he said in a trembling voice, I. He really couldn't speak. A disciple at the side laughed. "What's wrong with you? Can't you speak?" He took the metal visitation card and glanced at it. He began to tremble as well. The card said, "Heart-Eating Master, Mad Eagle." There was no sect, only 6 words. The disciple trembled. Heart-Eating Master. 8 rings. Oh my God, as an enlightened master on duty, his ears were good. He sat in the small room and heard everything clearly. He jumped out of the small room as if his butt was on fire and said, What What 8 rings? The disciple was still pointing at foaming, mumbling something incomprehensible. The enlightened master slapped the back of his head and scolded, "Idiot! Speak clearly!" The enlightened master's gaze was attracted to the metal visitation card in the disciple's hand and snatched it. Hearting master, he couldn't take these 4 words. Luckily, he was an enlightened master. Even though he only had 1 ring, he was still an enlightened master. He forced himself to calm down and said, "Senior Mad." No, Senior Eagle. "Hello, I'm an elder of the 100 United Sect. Ho Shao, a 1-ring enlightened master." Chapter 145. Mad Eagle said, "The door is hard to enter, and the face is ugly. The 100 United Sect is really King arrogant." Ho Zhao's expression changed. He didn't know what to say. No matter which sect it was, they would be very wary of strangers or unfamiliar cultivators. They would never treat unfamiliar cultivators so warmly. The door must be hard to enter, and the face must be ugly. But when these words came out of Mad Eagle's mouth, they sounded a little threatening. With a smile on his face, Ho Shao said sullenly, "Junior didn't know Senior was coming. Please forgive Junior's rudeness." As he apologized, he kicked the disciple, telling him to go back and report, who knew that the disciple wasn't smart enough. He looked at Ho Shao dumbly, not understanding why the elder kicked him. Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but laugh. He reminded him, "Your elder told you to go report, idiot." Tiger Love laughed. The disciple suddenly understood. He turned around and ran into the inner sect. Lei Xingfeng laughed and scolded him for being an idiot. Ho Shao also couldn't help but scold him. He was usually very smart. Why was he acting like an idiot now? Mad Eagle asked, "Do you have a perfected person called Aslan here?" Ho Shao was stunned and said, "Aslan." Lei Xingfeng looked at him expectantly and said, Yes, Aslan." "You know him?" Ho Shao said, "No, I don't know him." Lei Xingfeng was disappointed, but he didn't give up. He said, "Okay then, Wu Ziki. You should know him, right?" Ho Shao thought for a moment and said, "We don't have Wu Ziki in the 100 United Sect. Is he also a perfected person?" Mad Eagle said in surprise, "You don't know him?" He started to wonder. Qian Jinkuan was very sure that the person who injured him was a perfected person from the 100 United Sect. When Ho Shao saw Mad Eagle's face darken, he couldn't help but panic. "I don't know all of the enlightened masters of the 100 United Sect. There are many enlightened masters in our sect." Mad Eagle and Lei Xingfeng were relieved. It was not surprising that a large sect did not know all the real people. Ho Shao asked, "May I ask these two seniors' surnames?" Lei Xingfeng smiled. "True treasure, Luanin Master, Lei Xingfeng. Also, Uncle Ling and Uncle Tiger are both true Heart-Yin Masters." He introduced. Ho Shao felt his scalp go numb. Of the 3 sages, 2 were 8th ring sages, and the last one looked like he hadn't even reached adulthood, but he actually had a 5th ring sage. Even in the 100 United Sect, a 5th ring sage was a member of the top circle. They weren't people that people like him could get close to. He was only the lowest existence in the sage's circle. Meeting these 3 powerful people, Ho Shao didn't dare to be negligent. He personally walked in with them. Someone had already gone in to report. The news of a top-level enlightened master at the door immediately spread to the upper echelons of the 100 United Sect. A few elders rushed out to welcome them. As long as they didn't have evil intentions, any high-level cultivator would be welcomed by the sect. More and more enlightened masters arrived. Lei Xingfeng and the other 2 had already entered the 100 United Sect's guest hall. Because Mad Eagle and Tiger Love were both true heart masters with eighth ring sage bodies, the 100 United sect didn't dare to be negligent. They had the secluded old ancestor come out to greet them. He was also an eighth ring sage called Ji Bai Chung. He didn't manage the 100 United sect for a long time and was considered the sect's secret weapon. If it wasn't for the fact that the people coming were too terrifying, they wouldn't have asked him to come out. Ji Bai Chung was simply too old. Because he couldn't continue to advance, he basically relied on recuperation to prolong his life. Lei Xingfeng only needed a glance to know that this old man was about to dry up. His face was filled with age spots and deep wrinkles. His body was stooped, and he held a walking stick in his hand. Even his words were slurred. Sitting there, he only said a few words and was already panting heavily. This kind of eighth ring sage, don't mention Mad Eagle and Tiger Love, even a seventh ring sage would be able to grind him to death. Of course, no matter how much of a genius Lei Xingfeng was, with his strength, he still couldn't beat this kind of expert. The difference in strength was too great. The other expert of the 100 United sect was the great elder of the inner sect, a true master with sixth ring sage body, Ho Xinguang. In the 100 United sect, the Ho Shi clan was an important part of it, especially because of Ho Xinguang's existence. He was extremely strong in the 100 United sect. Ho Xinguang was a very shrewd and valiant person. His observation was very detailed. After interacting for a short while, he could tell that Lei Xingfeng was the leader of the three. Especially when they sat down, Lei Xingfeng sat in the main seat, while the two eighth ring sages were only willing to sit behind him. This meant that Lei Xingfeng was the one in charge, causing him to mutter in his heart. In this world, if a person with low strength was the leader, then the only explanation was that this person's position was extremely high, and there was an even stronger expert behind him. Ho Xinguang couldn't help but be careful. From his words, he didn't dare to treat Lei Xingfeng as a junior, even if he was a level lower than him, even if he was still young. Lei Xingfeng asked, "Old Ho, this time I came to the 100 United sect because I have something to trouble you with." Ho Xinguang felt dizzy hearing this. Old Ho? This form of address was very refreshing. He smiled and said, "If there's anything you need, little brother, please tell us. If we can help, our 100 United sect will definitely not decline." What he meant was that if they couldn't help, there was nothing they could do. Lei Xingfeng nodded. "And I'm here to find someone." Ho Xinguang asked, "Who? What's her name?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Aslan, a great Luanine master with fourth ring sage body. And she's an older woman with green Luan attribute, proficient in medicine." Ho Xinguang's eyes revealed a trace of shock. "Aslan? South Rio Mountains Aslan?" Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but be overjoyed. "South Rio Mountain? Where is it?" Ho Xinguang said, "South Rio Mountain. It's not a sect. It's a place where practitioners gather. There are a few factions there that are constantly fighting. And I know Aslan, but I don't know if she's the one you're looking for. She has fourth ring sage body and is a famous medicine master. She belongs to the neutral Xiao Yao faction in South Rio Mountain. She has a group of followers and a group of powerful friends." Lei Xingfeng's face was full of smiles. He finally found Aslan. He didn't expect that she wasn't from a sect, but a free medicine master. He asked, "How do we get there?" Ho Xinguang said, "South Rio Mountain isn't far. I went there last year to visit a friend. Taking a boat, 10 days, walking 15 to 20 days. If we go through the ancient Luan passage, it's only 3 days." Lei Xingfeng was overjoyed. "So close." Ho Xinguang nodded. "Yes, very close. But South Rio Mountain is very chaotic. Of course, it's not a problem for you guys. With their strength, they can do whatever they want in South Rio Mountain." No one would dare to mess with them. Ji Baiching said vaguely, I heard South Rio Mountain isn't very peaceful recently. There are a few groups of people. And killing here and there. If little brother wants to find someone, it's better go quickly, Kikik. He covered his mouth and coughed a few times, then said hoarsely, and I'm getting old. My body is a bit unwell. I won't accompany you guys. Lei Xingfeng and the other two stood up. They still respected Ji Baiching. Even if he was old and about to die, an eighth ring sage's dignity was not to be disrespected. Ji Baiching nodded, and two disciples of the 100 United sect came forward to help him up. Ji Baiching walked to the door, then turned back and said, I have an old friend in South Rio Mountain. You guys can ask him for help, and I'll bring you guys to Aslan. He's a local. He should know more about the situation. Originally, Ho Jingguang wanted to accompany Lei Xingfeng and the other two, but Ji Baiching's words made him drop the idea. He seemed to have sensed Ji Baiching's intentions. Lei Xingfeng said, Thank you, old man. He could call Ho Jingguang old Ho, but he definitely couldn't call Ji Baiching old Ji. That would be too rude. Ji Baiching smiled slightly and left with the help of the two disciples. After a while, a disciple came over and said, Senior, the old ancestor left an address and name for you. Lei Xingfeng said, And Bai Shiji? That's a very special name. Ho Jingguang said, Bai Shiji, I know him too. He's a third ring sage, very generous and hospitable, and has many friends. He also knows Aslan, and the two of them have a good relationship. If you look for him, you should be able to meet Aslan soon. Lei Xingfeng was in a very good mood. He had finally found Aslan, which meant that he had found his little sister. If he could find his little sister, and then find the old man Thunderstorm, then their family would be reunited. As for his parents in this life, he didn't even think about looking for them. In this life, he valued Ah Yi and his little sister the most. It was difficult for others to leave a mark in his heart. Mad Eagle whispered, It's rare to see a Feng so happy. Tiger Love nodded. Yes, I wonder who this Aslan is, to be able to make a Feng so happy. Lei Xingfeng turned his head and laughed. It's not because I'm happy to see Aslan, but because once I see Aslan, I can find my little sister. Mad Eagle and Tiger Love were stunned. The two of them didn't know that Lei Xingfeng had a little sister. The two of them nodded, understanding why Lei Xingfeng was so happy. Lei Xingfeng didn't want to stay in the 100 United sect any longer. He stood up and said, Let's go now. Ho Jingguang immediately heaved a sigh of relief. These three people were a great threat to him. Even if Lei Xingfeng's level was lower than his, 2 8th ring experts gave him a lot of pressure. If these three people were to turn hostile, he didn't know who in the 100 United sect could stop them. Ho Jingguang said, Okay, I'll send someone to bring you to the Luan Point. Lei Xingfeng and the other two walked out of the guest hall. Ho Jingguang said, Ho Xiao, bring these 3 seniors to the Luan Point. Yes, the Luan Point to Nanrio Mountain. Chapter 146. Ho Xiao, who had been standing outside the door, replied, Yes, I'll take you to the Luan spot. Lei Xingfeng said goodbye. Tiger Love squatted down and said, A Feng, come up. I'll carry you there. Mad Eagle grabbed Ho Xiao, and the two flew into the air. Tiger Love carried Lei Xingfeng and flew up. Mad Eagle said, Show me the way. Ho Xiao looked around and said, Fly that way. It was his first time being carried in the air. He was quite shocked, but he was still calm and pointed in the right direction. In a moment, the 4 landed on the Luan spot. There were disciples of the 100 United sect guarding it. With Ho Xiao there, they didn't dare to ask. Mad Eagle opened the Luan spot, and the 3 entered the ancient Luan passage. Bai Shiji, lived on the west side of Mount Nanrio. Mount Nanrio was not a mountain, but a body of water. The reason why it was called Mount Nanrio was because in ancient times it was indeed a rocky mountain. It was said that after a great battle, the entire mountain was shattered by a mighty figure, forming countless piles of rubble. Later, the water flooded the area, and the rocks that emerged from the water formed countless small islands. These islands were innumerable. The largest was only a kilometer in radius, and the smallest was only the tip of a rock above the water. The islands here, as long as the area was slightly larger, there would be people living there. Most of them were cultivators. Tiger Love carried Lei Xingfeng, and Mad Eagle led the way. Just like that, the three of them flew in the air. Below them were small islands scattered all over the place. Occasionally, cultivators would see the three in the air and would be scared to death. Those who could fly were all sixth ring sages and above. Their strength was absolutely terrifying. The number of sages in Nanrio Mountain was limited at most a few thousand. Most of them were low-level sages, and there were no more than a few hundred sixth ring sages. At most, there were a dozen or so sixth ring sages, and they were all overlords. This body of water covered an area of a few thousand kilometers. It was rare for a dozen sixth ring sages to appear here. Those who lived here were mostly low-level cultivators. Wan Luan Shi, mill wheel masters, and low-level sages were the main ones, especially those with first-ring sages. A first-ring enlightened master was fishing on his own island. When he caught a 2-foot-long fish and raised his fishing rod, he suddenly saw two people hovering not far above his head. One of them was carrying a person on his back. He was so scared that his hand trembled. He threw away the fishing rod in his hand and jumped back, clutching his chest. His heart was beating like a drum. After a while, he finally calmed down. Then he heard the person in the air say, "Hey, little guy." The guy hurriedly said, "Yes, senior." He didn't dare to offend such an expert. Mad Eagle smiled. "By Shurji, do you know him?" The guy said, "Senior, By Shurji lives on that island." He pointed to an island on the side. The three looked in the direction he pointed. It was a rather large island, about 1 acre in size. There was a thatched cottage on it and a small forest. Mad Eagle nodded. "Little guy, thanks." The three of them flew towards the island. The guy rubbed his chest. After a while, he said, "Damn, that scared me to death." "Ah, so scary, two sages who can fly. I don't know what's going to happen. It's getting more and more chaotic. I can't live here anymore. Oh, I'll find a chance to leave." His heart was in a mess. Before he could return to his house, the three of them had returned and landed on his island. His expression immediately changed. According to the rules of this place, if one entered the island without the permission of the owner of the island, it was equivalent to declaring war with the owner of the island and seizing the ownership of the island. The guy smiled bitterly and said, "Please wait a moment. I'll prepare a boat. I'll leave. I'll let you have this island." Lei Xingfeng slid down from Tiger Love and said, "What nonsense are you talking about? We're not here to take over your island. Hey, little guy, we want to ask you something." The first ring sage was middle-aged. When he heard Lei Xingfeng call him little guy, he almost fell down. He thought, "You're the little guy?" He said, "Senior, please go ahead." In fact, Lei Xingfeng didn't mean it. He just followed the way Mad Eagle called him, "Little guy." He said, "By Shurji isn't here. Do you know when he'll come back?" The guy smiled bitterly and said, "About 10 days ago, a group of people came looking for him. I think he had something to do and went out. As for when, I don't know." Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "Well, since he's not here, do you know the other person?" The guy said, "Who?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Aslan. You know her? The guy nodded and said, Aslan. Of course I know her. There are very few people here who don't know her. Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, That's great. Take us to her. He was surprised. He didn't expect Aslan to be so famous here. The guy said, Okay, I'll prepare a boat and row it over. Mad Eagle smiled and said, No need to go through so much trouble. I'll fly you over. Right, little guy, what's your name? The guy said, Halai, First Ring Sage. Mad Eagle said, My surname is Eagle. Okay, let's go. With that, he grabbed Halai's arm and flew into the air. Tiger Love carried Lei Xingfeng on his back and flew into the air as well. Halai led the way, with Mad Eagle and Tiger Love carrying them. Their speed was extremely fast. In less than half an hour, the four of them arrived at a very large island. While still in the air, Lei Xingfeng saw broken walls and some broken corpses. At that moment, he felt his heart stop beating. He said, Quick, Uncle Tiger, land! His voice suddenly became hoarse and dry. Mad Eagle and Tiger Love's faces also changed. These were the traces of a battle. After landing, Lei Xingfeng jumped off Tiger Love's back and ran towards the house not far away. Every time he saw a corpse, Lei Xingfeng paused. As long as it wasn't Aslan's corpse or his sister's corpse, he felt a little better. Along the way, there were at least 10 corpses. The island was a mess. Lei Xingfeng's heart sank to the bottom. He only felt a bone-chilling coldness. He didn't say a word, but his face was already pale. Standing on the ruins of a collapsed wall, Lei Xingfeng's anger gradually died, his eyes red. Mad Eagle said, Afong, calm down. Let's search, see if there are any traces of Aslan and your sister, left behind. He almost said the corpses of Aslan and his sister. Luckily, he reacted quickly and knew that he couldn't provoke them. He cleverly changed his words. Lei Xingfeng nodded. He said, Everyone help search. His voice was completely hoarse. The four of them quickly searched around. Lei Xingfeng didn't find any traces of his sister. This meant that his sister was probably still alive. At least, they didn't find her corpse. This gave Lei Xingfeng some hope. Of course, the four of them didn't find Aslan's corpse either. Lei Xingfeng said, Halai, is there anyone we know around here? Halai knew what Lei Xingfeng needed. He nodded. No problem, I'll take you to someone. He lives nearby. Mad Eagle and Tiger Love each took 2 people. Soon, they arrived at a small island. Once on the island, Halai whispered, Senior, the person on this island is very powerful. He's a 6th ring sage. His name is Jean Daliao. He's a very arrogant person. He doesn't think highly of me. Lei Xingfeng said, Uncle Ling, you handle this. He was in a very bad mood. He didn't want to deal with the other party. He needed information. He needed to know that his sister was safe. Therefore, it didn't matter what method he used. Mad Eagle nodded. Leave it to me. He knew that Lei Xingfeng was in a very bad mood. Even if he wanted to comfort him, he couldn't. Tiger Love said, I'll do it. He quickly walked forward. Soon, he was in front of the house. He shouted, Is anyone there? Is anyone there? A tall, thin man in a golden robe walked out of the house. He said impatiently, Who is it? Who told you to come here? He glared at the 4 of them. It was obvious that he knew Halai. He said, Halai, what the F***ck are you doing here? Do you want to die? Halai's face turned pale. He said, I'm here with someone. No. Tiger Love waved his hand and asked him to leave. He went forward and said, Are you Jean Daliao? Jean Daliao stared at Tiger Love and said impatiently, And who are you? Tiger Love said, My name is Tiger Love. Yes, I have something to ask. He said it politely. Jean Daliao frowned and said, What is it? He sounded a little impatient. Lei Xingfeng's heart was on fire. Fortunately, he could still endure it. Tiger Love said, Aslan's house was destroyed. Can you tell me who did it? Jean Daliao rolled his eyes and said, What does it have to do with me? I don't know. Lei Xingfeng was furious. He said, How can you not know? This is something that happens right next to your house. Jean Daliao said, Near my house? Should I know? Ridiculous. I don't know anything. You can leave now. He turned and walked back. As he walked, he said, Where did this person come from? Maybe I've been too easy to talk to recently. Just anyone dares to come. Halai hurriedly said, Senior Jean. Jean Daliao suddenly turned and shouted at Halai, Get lost! Damn it, if you dare to talk, I'll kill you. Halai was so scared that he took a step back. He didn't dare to speak. Lei Xingfeng was really angry. He shouted, Stop! Jean Daliao slowly turned and said, You probably don't know who I am. Anyone who dares to speak to me like that has their bones turned to ashes. Get lost while I'm in a good mood. Lei Xingfeng was originally suppressing his anger. After all, he was here to get information, not to vent his anger. However, after hearing Jean Daliao's words, his eyes turned red. He sighed and said, I'm sorry. You're in a good mood, but I'm not. Fine, you're unlucky. Uncle Ing beat him up. He wasn't stupid enough to do it himself. Chapter 147. In fact, both Mad Eagle and Tiger Love were furious. The stronger the person, the more unwilling they were to swallow their anger. The two were worried about Lei Xingfeng. Seeing that the little guy was about to explode, of course they wouldn't let it go. Moreover, Lei Xingfeng ordered them to beat him up. Immediately Mad Eagle said, Okay, I'll do it. Jean Daliao sneered and said, Since you want to die, don't blame me. No cultivator dared to be so disrespectful to him. He was furious. Lei Xingfeng was even more furious. He said, Uncle Ing, boom. Although Jean Daliao was ready to attack, he didn't expect his opponent to be an 8th ring sage. The difference between the two was too big. Therefore, even if he was prepared, he couldn't attack in time. He was kicked away by Mad Eagle. Mad Eagle roared, You dare to tell my little master to get lost? F***CKU. This kick sent him to the ground. Then, Foaming flew forward and kicked out again. Jean Daliao screamed and suddenly jumped into the air. Who knew that someone was already waiting for him? He heard someone shout, Get down! Boom! Jean Daliao fell down. He didn't expect there to be an 8th ring sage in the sky. He couldn't block it and was directly stepped on. Tiger Love's body flashed and returned to Lei Xingfeng's side. Lai's mouth was wide open. He didn't even know that he was drooling. He was really scared. Jean Daliao was about to go crazy. He couldn't escape by flying. As long as he flew, Tiger Love would suddenly appear above him and step on him. Even if his defense was metal, this kind of violent attack was too much for him to handle. He was beaten up by the two. Actually, Mad Eagle and Tiger Love were bullying him. They were both 8th ring sages. If any one of them came out, they would definitely win. But when the two of them attacked, Jean Daliao was in a miserable state. Luckily, Lei Xingfeng ordered them to beat him up and not kill him. Jean Daliao's life was saved. Otherwise, he would have died long ago. He wouldn't have to wait for Tiger Love to attack. Halai knew what level Jean Daliao was at. He was a true E-master with 6 true ring bodies. Yet, he was beaten like a dead dog. He couldn't imagine what level these two were at. It was too F***king scary. Lei Xingfeng's mood improved a lot. He couldn't help but smile bitterly, wondering if his heart was too dark. Jean Daliao was like a rubber ball being kicked around by Mad Eagle and Tiger Love. He finally understood that they didn't plan on killing him. So he gave up on resisting and activated all his defenses. Even if he was beaten to the bone, the damage was limited. He kept shouting, "Stop, stop! I lost! I surrender!" Mad Eagle and Tiger Love didn't listen to him. Even if he surrendered, it was useless. They would only stop if Lei Xingfeng said so. This beating lasted for a full 5 minutes. Lei Xingfeng finally said indifferently, "All right, drag him over here." Mad Eagle grabbed Jean Daliao's hair and dragged him in front of Lei Xingfeng, saying, "I don't care if you're Big Bird Jean or Little Bird Jean. If you dare be rude to my little master again, I'll rip your bird apart." Lei Xingfeng almost laughed out loud. This Mad Eagle wasn't polite at all. Jean Daliao didn't dare to make a sound. This time, he was beaten into submission. He didn't dare to have any foolish thoughts. He lay on the ground, panting heavily. Jean Daliao wasn't the only one who was trembling. Even Halai was trembling. He wasn't trembling because he was being beaten. He was trembling in fear, especially when he saw a 6-ringed master being beaten like a stray dog. He was scared to death. Lei Xingfeng said, "Speak. What happened on Aslan?" Jean Daliao sat up. His head and face were covered in blood. Although he looked scary, his injuries weren't serious. A towel appeared in his hand, and he wiped his face. Mad Eagle was about to kick him, but Lei Xingfeng stopped him. Mad Eagle said, "You want to die again, right?" Jean Daliao threw the towel angrily and said, "Do you feel a sense of accomplishment from beating me up? Great. A top expert pretending to be a servant. You think it's fun?" Mad Eagle stepped forward and kicked him, saying, "Although I'm not a servant, I'm a guard. Why would I pretend to be your mother?" Jean Daliao's heart went cold. He could already see that Lei Xingfeng was about 5 true ring sages. These 2 guys were much stronger than him, and they were actually guards. Who was this guy? His heart was in a mess, but he didn't dare to continue. He said, "Aslan's home was indeed destroyed." Lei Xingfeng said, "Who destroyed it? Also, Aslan, has she been captured?" Jean Daliao said, "She escaped. She had a group of friends who came to rescue her. They took her away. I don't know about the rest. I only know that Aslan's life is not in danger." Lei Xingfeng said, "Is there a little girl around Aslan? About 7 or 8 years old?" Jean Daliao said, "How would I know? Aslan doesn't seem to have any disciples." Let me think." Lei Xingfeng's heart sank. He didn't give up and said, "Do you go to Aslan's place often?" Jean Daliao said, "No, I don't go there often, but she comes to visit me often." With his status, of course, he wouldn't go to Aslan often. Lei Xingfeng's eyes flashed fiercely. He said, "Who burned down Aslan's house and killed her subordinates?" Jean Daliao didn't want to say it, but he suddenly saw Lei Xingfeng's eyes. His heart went cold. He immediately understood that if he said that he didn't know, this guy might really kill him. Although he didn't know what relationship he had with Aslan, it wasn't his problem. Why should he provoke such a scary guy? He said, "It's the owner of Tilong Island. He brought his subordinates to capture someone." Lei Xingfeng immediately turned around and looked at Halai. Halai was frightened. Lei Xingfeng said, "Who is the owner of Tilong Island?" Halai was so scared that he almost peed his pants. The owner of Tilong Island was much scarier than Jean Daliao. This was because Jean Daliao was a loner. He had always been alone. Although he was strong, he wasn't scary. As long as you didn't provoke him, you wouldn't be in any danger. However, the owner of Tilong Island was different. This guy's strength might be similar to Jean Daliao, but he had a lot of subordinates and friends. Many of them were 4th, 6th, and 6th ringmasters. Provoking him was equivalent to provoking a group of powerful people. In Nanrio Mountain, there was no one who wasn't afraid of him. Halai stuttered and explained, "I don't understand either." the owner of Tilong Island, and Aslan should be friends. Why would they fight? They even killed someone. Lei Xingfeng turned to Jean Daliao and said, "What's going on?" Jean Daliao wanted to strangle Halai. He said, "What nonsense are you talking about? How come I didn't know that Aslan and the owner of Tilong Island are friends? They have never been friendly when they meet." Halai didn't dare to speak anymore. Lei Xingfeng said, "Why aren't they friends?" Jean Daliao couldn't help but explain. The owner of Tilong Island has a lot of friends. People are often injured, and the owner of Tilong Island likes to be a busybody. He would often trouble Aslan. As time passed, Aslan wasn't happy, and their relationship became worse. Lei Xingfeng said, "Is the owner of Tilong Island not going to pay him?" Jean Daliao nodded and said, "If not, why would they become enemies?" He thought to himself, "This guy's reaction is fast." Lei Xingfeng said, "This shouldn't be the reason why he attacked Aslan." "Oh, right. Where does the owner of Tilong Island live?" He had already made up his mind to look for the owner of Tilong Island. At the very least, he wanted to know if Aslan was captured and if his sister was implicated. Thinking about being implicated, he couldn't help but sigh. Everything went wrong this time. He went to find someone to understand the situation, and he offended the masked man. Now that he was here, he had to offend the owner of Tilong Island. What was going on? Jean Daliao said, "The owner of Tilong Island lives tens of miles away. If we fly there, it will only take a few minutes." Lei Xingfeng stared at him. Instantly, Jean Daliao broke out in cold sweat. After a while, he said, Don't kill me." Jean Daliao was completely scared. If Lei Xingfeng wanted to kill him, he wouldn't be able to do anything. He wouldn't even have the slightest hope of escaping, let alone resisting. Lei Xingfeng said, "I don't intend to kill you. However, I want to remind you to watch your mouth, especially before we reach the owner of Tilong Island. Also, if you want to take revenge, I don't care. You won't be so lucky this time. You understand?" Jean Daliao was sweating profusely and said, Yes, I understand." Lei Xingfeng continued, "Once it is confirmed that it is indeed a fight between the owner of Tilong Island and Aslan, then there won't be any problems. If it isn't the owner of Tilong Island, I can find you even if you run to the ends of the earth." Jean Daliao nodded and said, "Don't worry, I am speaking the truth." He had already made up his mind to leave this place immediately after Lei Xingfeng left. He couldn't stay here anymore. With his ability, he could live comfortably anywhere. Lei Xingfeng then stood up and said, "Halai, lead the way. Uncle Ing, Uncle Tiger, let's go." If they were to fly, the owner of Tilong Island's residence was indeed very close. Jean Daliao wasn't lying about this. The four of them arrived at an island very quickly. This was a huge island that occupied about 100 acres. There were all sorts of buildings on it. Halai explained, "There are many practitioners here that depend on the owner of Tilong Island. This island is called Tilong Island. It is the largest island in the vicinity." Lei Xingfeng said, "How many practitioners are there on this island? How strong are they?" Halai said, "I'm not too sure about the exact number. However, they aren't considered strong. They are mainly mill wheel masters and low-level true masters. True high-level true masters won't stay on the island. However, there are many high-level true masters living on the nearby islands." Mad Eagle said, "How many true ring bodies do you define as a high-level true master?" Chapter 148. Halai smiled bitterly. 1 ring is considered low-level, 2 ring is more powerful, 3 ring is mid-level, and high-level is 4 ring or above. Actually, no more than 6 ring. As far as I know, I've never heard of an 8 ring perfected master in Nanrio Mountain. I think I heard that a 7-ring perfected master came, and then left, Mad Eagle said. Then what about 8-ring or 9-ring perfected masters? Halai said, top tier. We're considered top-tier perfected masters here. Mad Eagle smiled. That's more like it. Tiger Love said, Old Eagle, don't be so smug. We're nothing. You know how weak we are. We're nothing. Mad Eagle's face turned bitter. All right, it's rare for me to be happy, and you're going to hit me. We're both hopeless people. Halai was stunned. He thought, if you're all hopeless people, then what's the point of us living? We should just die. This sarcastic remark is infuriating. The 4 of them attracted a lot of attention when they landed on the island. Ordinary people might not know who they were, but all the cultivators on the island knew that 2 of them were at least 6-ringed masters. No one dared to approach them and strike up a conversation. Xian Feng spoke. Halai, you can go back. As he spoke, he flipped his wrist and took out a few Luan rings, handing them to him. Take these. Halai was surprised. Luan rings. He knew about them, but it was his first time seeing one. He didn't believe it. Lei Xingfeng nodded. Yes, these are Luan rings. Take it as a thank you. You should leave Nanrio Mountain. It's not good for you to stay here. Halai said, Thank you, thank you. I understand. I'll leave immediately. He turned and ran to the dock. He immediately hired a boat and left. Mad Eagle said, You scared him. Lei Xingfeng shook his head. He was scared long ago. With his strength, staying here is suicide. Tiger Love nodded. That's right. Old Eagle, fly up and call out. Lei Xingfeng chuckled. Her words were too ambiguous. Mad Eagle glared at Tiger Love and said, You shout. Tiger Love also realized that he had said something wrong. He couldn't help but laugh and say, Okay, I'll call, okay? He. He leaped into the sky and shouted, Island Lord of Tilong, come out. With this loud roar, the island was instantly thrown into chaos. 2 figures flew up from the center of the island and quickly flew over. Tiger Love hovered in the air, waiting for the 2 to come closer. They were 2 6th-ring true masters. Mad Eagle and Tiger Love could see this clearly. When the 2 came closer, Tiger Love gestured, and he landed. The 2 true masters also landed. Lei Xingfeng said, Who is Tilong Island Lord? At this moment, many practitioners were hiding and watching from afar. Of the 2 that landed, the younger one said, I am Tilong Island Lord. I'm Heizei, a 6th-ring true master. He wore a luxurious silk robe, his long hair draped over his shoulders. He had a pair of snake-like eyes. Even when he smiled, the coldness could still send chills down people's spines. The person beside Heizei said, Sunbai, true master. He had a dead face. The so-called dead face was a face that was completely stiff and expressionless. His appearance was even uglier than Heizei's. Heizei's eyes were terrifying, but his entire face gave people nightmares. Lei Xingfeng couldn't be bothered to talk to him. He stepped forward and said, I'm looking for Aslan. He didn't even bother to say anything. There would be a conflict anyways. Also, he knew that as long as he mentioned Aslan, the other party wouldn't be nice to him. They might even start fighting. As expected, the moment he said Aslan, the other party's expression changed. Heizei said, Who are you? Lei Xingfeng said impatiently, Cut the crap. Did you capture Aslan? Sunbai, who was beside Hei's, laughed coldly and said, You're with Aslan? Humph, then don't blame me for being impolite. Heizei, capture him. Xian Feng turned his head and spoke, Capture them. The 2 of them spoke almost at the same time, even saying the same thing. Hearing this, Heizei pounced forward without hesitation. Mad Eagle sneered, You're courting death. He also pounced forward. Boom. This time, Mad Eagle didn't hold back at all. He used almost 80% of his strength. Just one move, and Heizei was almost dead. Suanbai's pupils shrank to the size of a needle. The moment Mad Eagle released his aura, he understood. He said in shock, "Eighth ring." He cursed in his heart and turned to run. He didn't dare to fight Mad Eagle. He knew how big the difference between an eighth ring and a sixth ring was. Before Sunbai could run 2 steps, Tiger Love suddenly appeared in front of him and shouted, "Running? Stay!" Boom! He kicked him down, then grabbed his neck and flung him away, causing him to fly out. Sunbai and Heizei crashed into each other. In an instant, their defenses were shattered. The collision made them dizzy. After a while, they came to. Lei Xingfeng said calmly, "I want Aslan." Mad Eagle said, "Don't King play dead. If you don't want us to kill you, you better listen to us." He threatened. Heizei was terrified. Both of them were defeated in one move. He also heard Sunbai say eighth ring, so he reacted. He was actually an eighth ring expert. He was nothing. He said, "Aslan ran away a long time ago. We didn't catch him." Suanbai's eyes flashed. He stared at Lei Xingfeng. After a while, he said, "You are..." Lei Xingfeng didn't hide it. He said, "Lei Xingfeng, true treasure Luanine master." Suanbai's eyes flashed. He said, "You, who is Thunderstorm to you?" Lei Xingfeng's heart pounded. He said, "Thunderstorm. You know him? Where is he?" Before Sunbai could speak, a figure landed. Lei Xingfeng looked up and couldn't help but laugh. He said, "Dayton. Haha, Uncle Ing, catch him." Dayton came out to be a peacemaker and stall for time. He didn't expect to hear someone say they wanted to catch him. He couldn't help but be angry. "Who dares to catch me?" Mad Eagle rushed up and scolded, "F*CK you, who do you think you are?" Pung. Dayton was beaten to the ground. At this time, he realized that Heizei and Sunbai had lost their ability to fight back. Heizei scolded, "Dayton, you idiot!" Lei Xingfeng started to feel uneasy. Dayton was a sixth ring sage, but he had a backer. He had seen C. Dano before. That guy was a ninth ring sage. Even with Mad Eagle and Tiger Love, they weren't his match. Mad Eagle walked up and tied the 3 up. He said, "What should we do?" Lei Xingfeng came to Dayton's side. He said, "Do you still recognize me?" Dayton looked carefully. Suddenly he reacted. He said in shock, "You're Thunderstorm's grandson." How is this possible? Fifth ring sage. With his strength and insight, he could obviously see Lei Xingfeng's strength. One must know that when they were at Stellar Night Fortress, Lei Xingfeng was only a mill wheel master. In such a short time, this guy had 5 ring sage. From what he knew, this was completely impossible. Lei Xingfeng said, "Where is Maya Yi?" Dayton was suddenly terrified. He said, "If I say I don't know where he is, would you believe me?" Back then, he was caught by Thunderstorm and suffered a lot. But he escaped in the end. Lei Xingfeng shook his head. "Of course not. You've already come to Aslan. How can I believe you?" Dayton's heart was filled with hatred. He didn't hate Xian Feng, but he hated Heizei and Sunbai. Since the opponent was so strong, they should have sent out a signal. But in the end, there was no signal, and he had to barge in. Wasn't this a scam? He shouted, "I'm just helping a friend. And we didn't catch Aslan." You can't. He couldn't say what he couldn't say. He had killed many of Aslan's friends and disciples. His hatred for Aslan was very deep. Lei Xingfeng laughed coldly. He said, "Who did you catch from Aslan?" He said, "We didn't catch anyone." A spear suddenly appeared in Lei Xingfeng's hand. He stabbed it into Hei's thigh. He laughed coldly. "I'm young, so I have a short temper. If there's anything I can't control, please forgive me." Hei was so scared that he started to tremble. Generally speaking, the higher one's cultivation, the more afraid they were of death. This rule was correct, except for a few exceptions. E. Dayton and Sunbai were even more scared, especially E. Dayton. He didn't know if Thunderstorm had mentioned him. If he hadn't, then he might be able to get away with it. But if he had, then this was even scarier than if he had fallen into Thunderstorm's hands. He knew that Lei Xingfeng wasn't even 20 years old. In this world, 20 years old wasn't considered an adult. He was still considered a child. Children were the scariest because they didn't know what was important or not. They were fearless and dared to do anything. His eyes shouted. He watched as the spear pierced his thigh. He couldn't defend himself because his Li had been completely sealed by Mad Eagle. Lei Xingfeng stabbed his spear again. E. Dayton screamed. His had already closed his eyes and was prepared to endure the attack. He didn't expect the spear to hit E. Dayton. He turned his head and saw the spear piercing into E. Dayton's shoulder. The practitioners in the distance were so scared that they were going crazy. They all stared with their mouths agape. Whether it was His, E. Dayton, or Sunbai, they were all top figures in the underworld. They didn't expect to be beaten up like dogs. Some people had already started to retreat. Poor E. Dayton didn't know what to say. He just kept screaming. Even if he was a sixth ring sage, he couldn't use his Li. When the spear pierced into his body, he would feel the same pain as a normal person. Lei Xingfeng said calmly, "Where is my Ai? Where is Aslan?" He didn't dare to talk about his sister. He was afraid that someone would hear about it and find his sister before him. If that happened, he would be in a passive position. He had to be careful. Chapter 149. E. Dayton really didn't know. He howled, "I don't know." Ah. Lei Xingfeng stabbed his thigh again without hesitation and said, "You still don't know? Then let's do it again." Of course, Xian Feng knew who E. Dayton was. It was because of him that his grandpa ended up in such a sorry state, causing him to separate from his grandpa. How could Xian Feng let him go? After a few stabs, Lei Xingfeng changed his target. He stabbed Sunbai's thigh and said, "You're an accomplice too, aren't you?" Sunbai couldn't take it anymore and scolded, "Brat, even if you kill me, do you think you can escape?" Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "It doesn't matter if I can escape in the future, but one thing is very clear. You can't escape now." If Sunbai didn't speak, Lei Xingfeng might have been able to suppress his anger. But this guy dared to threaten him. He couldn't let him go. He stabbed him with the long spear in his hand. Of course, every time he stabbed a bone, he would pull out the long spear. This made him cry out in pain. This level of attack was not enough to take Sunbai's life. However, no one would be able to withstand the continuous stabbing of the spear. This was not a skewer of barbecued meat, but a live meat skewer. Sunbai was still cursing at first, but in the end, he had no choice but to remain silent. Then he could not take it anymore and began to scream until he began to beg for mercy. Lei Xingfeng asked, "At Aslan's place, who did you capture?" There was no other way. Xian Feng was using this method of absolute threat to get a confession. His, E. Dayton, and Sunbai begged for mercy in front of everyone. E. Dayton said, "You're ruthless." I'll talk. Lei Xingfeng's spear pierced E. Dayton's palm. He said, "Talk." He felt that this guy was too slow. E. Dayton wanted to cry, but no tears came out. He said, "When we went there, Aslan had already escaped. Those who were killed came after. I don't know where Aslan went." Lei Xingfeng didn't believe it at all. He said, "You killed so many people. I don't believe that you didn't catch a few of them." E. Datong said, Those were killed by us to vent our anger. Even if we captured them, we wouldn't get any information. It's not that they didn't want to tell us, but they didn't know at all. So we didn't capture any of them. Lei Xingfeng asked, "Are there no clues at all?" As he spoke, he pointed his spear at the three of them, scaring them so much that they kept dodging. However, the three of them were tied up, so where could they hide? Idatong howled, "I really don't know. Please, don't stab me anymore." He realized that this little brat was much more despicable than his grandpa. His face always had a despicable smile, but his eyes were filled with an extremely cold glint. How would he know that Xian Feng's heart was filled with extreme disappointment, bringing with it his violent emotions? Lei Xingfeng hit Yi Dayton with his spear. He said, "What are you shouting for? Last time, you tried to kill me. Yi, I haven't settled the score with you yet. All right, where is Yi?" Yi Dayton really wanted to cry. How could he know where Thunderstorm was? If he knew, he would have informed C. Danos to chase after him. Lei Xingfeng said, Tell me. Yi Dayton's voice changed. He shouted, "I really don't King know. If I knew, I would have brought people to kill them." In his panic, he even said what was on his mind. After saying it, he knew that it wasn't good. His body moved to the side, like a maggot. Mad Eagle said curiously, "I didn't expect them to be a Feng's enemies." Tiger Love nodded. "Looks like that's right." "Oh, right. A Feng, your grandfather is also a cultivator?" Lei Xingfeng nodded. "Like you guys?" "Yes, he's an 8th ringmaster. I don't know how many rings he has now. Maybe he's already a 9th ringmaster." He had always been superstitious about his grandfather's strength, especially when his grandfather invented how to cultivate quickly in a thunderstorm. With his strength, he really didn't know how far he could advance. Mad Eagle and Tiger Love were shocked. They didn't expect Lei Xingfeng's grandfather to be a master. After thinking about it, they understood. Otherwise, it wouldn't explain why Lei Xingfeng had so much potential and his cultivation speed was so fast. This was the effect of being a master. Lei Xingfeng said, "They also have a master who's a 9th ringmaster. His name is C. Dano. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have been separated from my grandfather." Speaking of this guy, Lei Xingfeng was furious. However, the difference in level was too big. He didn't dare to fight C. Dano. That was a battle he would definitely lose. Mad Eagle's expression became serious. He was more knowledgeable than Lei Xingfeng. Of course, he knew what a 9th ringmaster meant. It could be said that on this continent, 8th and 9th ringmasters were the top masters. Moreover, those who could reach 8th and 9th ringmasters weren't usually people on this continent who could reach 8th and 9th ringmasters on their own. They all relied on other forces to reach this level. Only this C. Dano had a powerful master behind him. Just like Lei Xingfeng, he didn't rely on his own strength to reach 9th ringmaster. On this continent, once you had amazing potential, you would definitely be taken away by someone powerful, unless you never appeared and stayed in a small place in the countryside. Mad Eagle said, "See, Dano, where is he from?" Lei Xingfeng said, "I don't know. You'll have to ask this guy." As he spoke, Lei Xingfeng used his spear to stab Yi Dayton. Yi Dayton was already dizzy. There were so many holes in his body, and he had lost a lot of blood. He started to shiver and stare blankly. He muttered to himself, I don't know anything." Mad Eagle grabbed him and said, "Where's that C. Dano?" Yi Dayton said, I don't know." Mad Eagle couldn't help but smile bitterly. This guy didn't know anything. He said, "A Feng. I don't think I can get anything out of him. And what do you plan to do?" Lei Xingfeng also didn't know what to do. He couldn't be sure of his little sister's safety. He couldn't help but blame Aslan. This guy took Lei Xingyao away and made him unable to find her. He finally found where she lived, but then this happened. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. "Uncle Ing, Uncle Tiger, what should I do?" At this time, Lei Xingfeng also couldn't think of a good idea. He could only ask for 2 bodyguards. They were 8th ring masters, at least experienced and knowledgeable. They should be able to give him some advice. Mad Eagle gave a simple answer. He said, try your best to avoid meeting with C. Dano. Kill 3 people and immediately go back to ask for help. Tiger Love said, with my and Old Eagle's strength, although we can't beat C. Dano, protecting you isn't a big problem. But I'm afraid of accidents, so I agree to go back first. When Mad Eagle said that he wanted to kill 3 people, Hazy, E. Dayton, and Suanbai's faces all turned pale. To be able to get to their current position and strength, they were even more afraid of death than normal people. It must be known that they were usually high and mighty overlords. They could do whatever they wanted. Their days were extremely comfortable. If they died now, how could they be satisfied? You can't kill me. E. Dayton shouted in despair. Let me go. Hazy, the famous Tilong Island master, begged. If you kill me, our Sun family will definitely not let you go. Sunbai threatened. Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but laugh. There were indeed threats, begging, and cries of despair. He said, let you go and wait for you to come and kill me? And you guys are too big of a threat. I can't hold back. From the start, Lei Xingfeng didn't intend to let the 3 of them go. But he also didn't intend to kill them immediately. There were some situations that he had to understand, and he could feel that the other party was trying to hide something. He had to dig it out. Lei Xingfeng said, Hey Z, you're the island master of Tilong Island. I believe you're very familiar with Aslan. Why did you capture her? Tell me. Hazy's gaze secretly swept past Sunbai. This small action was immediately caught by Lei Xingfeng. He immediately understood that this matter must have something to do with Sunbai. This guy was very cunning. He had been hiding at the side, trying his best to avoid Lei Xingfeng's attention, so much so that Lei Xingfeng really ignored him. Xian Feng suddenly laughed, scaring the 3 of them to the point that their hearts jumped. Sunbai, I'm very curious. Who are you? Sunbai had a dead man's face. It was stiff and expressionless, but there was a trace of fear in his eyes. He said, I'm not someone you can offend. Lei Xingfeng fiercely pierced his thigh with his spear and said, I've offended you, so what? Sunbai was so angry that his dead man face revealed a furious expression. Lei Xingfeng pierced his spear again and said, Don't play dead. Sunbai felt like a tiger that had fallen from the sky. A true master with 5 true ring bodies actually dared to deal with him like this. He was so angry that his hair stood on end. But he had no way to get out of his current predicament. He gritted his teeth and said, I'm looking for Aslan, for a little girl. Are you satisfied now? Damn it, don't make me. He suddenly swallowed his last sentence. He had already realized that if he said those words now, other than suffering more, there would be no other consequences. Lei Xingfeng was secretly shocked. They weren't targeting Aslan, but Lei Xingyao. He could almost immediately determine who they were looking for. What was laughable was that he had wanted to hide the existence of his little sister. It turned out that his little sister had been targeted since long ago. Little girl, so that's how it is. You want to find my little sister and force me, to come out? Lei Xingfeng didn't hide his purpose of looking for his little sister anymore. Mad Eagle and Tiger Love were both secretly shocked. Only now did they know Lei Xingfeng's purpose. Sunbai said, That's right, we were looking for you, but we didn't have any news. Now that you've appeared, you'll be hunted down. Lei Xingfeng had already determined that the other party didn't succeed. He said, When did Aslan leave? Don't tell me you don't know. Sunbai coldly laughed and said, She escaped quickly, but she won't be able to escape. She doesn't know how strong we are. Lei Xingfeng forcefully stabbed his spear and said, hatefully, "How much hatred do you have for you to keep chasing after her?" Chapter 150. Son, Bai let out a muffled groan. This spear directly pierced through his shoulder, breaking his collarbone, causing one of his arms to be completely crippled. He coldly said, "You are ruthless. If you kill me, you will have a death feud with our Sun clan. Even if you escape to the ends of the earth, you will still be hunted down and killed." Xian Feng wasn't afraid of his threats. If he didn't have a master, perhaps he would feel uneasy, but even if he didn't, he still wouldn't let Sun Bai go. At this point, he couldn't let go. This was a burden brought by Grandpa's enemy. It wasn't something he could avoid. Putting away the spear, Lei Xingfeng knew he could not get any more information. He said, "Uncle Ing, I'll leave it to you." Mad Eagle smiled and said, "Okay, I'll take care of it." Suddenly, the three of them shouted. They knew they could not escape. Lei Xingfeng said, "Uncle Tiger, take me to where He Eyes lives." Mad Eagle said, "You guys go first. I'll be right there." Tiger Love grabbed Lei Xingfeng and flew quickly. Mad Eagle sneered and said, "Everyone, I'm sorry. I'll send you on your way." Sun Bai said, "You should have heard of the hidden sect. I'm from the hidden sect. You can't kill me." Mad Eagle smiled and said, "Who told you to provoke my little master?" "Sorry, I'm also from the hidden sect." Sun Bai said, "My master is a monarch. If you kill me, he'll know." Mad Eagle frowned slightly. He suddenly laughed and said, "Interesting. What a pity. Who told you to chase after my little master? Even if there's a monarch, my family also has one. Hee hee. I believe that between monarchs there will be negotiations. But you won't be able to wait until that day. Besides, would a monarch care about the conflicts between us? You're not a monarch's disciple. You should be like me. Well, maybe even worse." Sun Bai was struck speechless. He was truly in despair. Feng was right. He wasn't monarch's disciple, and his status wasn't even as high as Feng's. He was just a small errand boy. A lot of his words were just to scare people. Mad Eagle smiled and said, "Goodbye, everyone." Dayton was extremely regretful. He regretted getting involved in such a terrifying battle. Before he could beg for mercy, he was killed by Mad Eagle. Feng killed 3 people in a row. He looked around and found that the cultivators around him had all run away. Only then did he fly up, and a ball of fire fell, burning the 3 people to ashes in an instant. Lei Xingfeng and Tiger Love rushed into the residence of the Lord of Tilong Island. There was no one inside. Even the servants had run away. The house was empty. The floor was a mess, as if it had been robbed. Lei Xingfeng sighed. "When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter." Hee hee. He looked around, but didn't find anything. Mad Eagle landed from the sky and said, "It's done. Feng, I think we should go back and tell the master about this." Lei Xingfeng nodded, "And let's go back." At this time, there was no hope of finding Lei Xingyao, but he knew that Si Dineo was investigating his grandfather and sister. Mad Eagle looked at Lei Xingfeng's listless face and said, "Don't worry, Feng. Let's go back first and think of a way." Tiger Love also persuaded, "Yes, there's no point in being anxious. Aslan probably took your sister to hide. Hee hee, it'll be hard to find them quickly. Let's go back first." Lei Xingfeng said, "Killing 3 people should have cut off their clues to find my sister. But we don't know who's in charge of this. Sai, I was too anxious. I should have controlled the people on the island. I think the people who know about this have all escaped." Mad Eagle said, "We didn't think that they were targeting your sister. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in such a passive situation." Tiger Love said, "We can't stay here for long. Let's leave as soon as possible." Knowing that there was someone like Si Dineo and that he was from the hidden sect, both Tiger Love and Mad Eagle became cautious. They wouldn't care about a normal sect, even a large one. But the hidden sect was different. Any hidden sect had many experts. Of course, by the standards of this continent, 7th, 8th, and 9th ring experts were the top in the sects of this continent. But in the hidden sect, such experts weren't rare at all. The two of them were experts. Naturally, they wouldn't make mistakes in this area. They urged Lei Xingfeng to leave. Lei Xingfeng looked around, but couldn't find any clues. He said, "Okay, let's leave. F***CK. He couldn't help but curse. He was definitely unhappy. Mad Eagle squatted down and said, "I'll carry you." Lei Xingfeng didn't refuse. He laid on Mad Eagle's back and said, "Okay, let's go home. I'll talk to Master." The three of them just rose into the air. Before they even left Tilong Island's range, a figure suddenly appeared in the air. He shouted, "Stop!" Lei Xingfeng looked over. He had never seen this person before. It was a slightly fat middle-aged man with a kind face. He blocked their way. Mad Eagle said softly, "Be careful, this guy is definitely 8th ring true body. Tiger, you're in front." He was carrying Lei Xingfeng. Once the battle started, it wouldn't be convenient. That person got closer and said, "Sun Buru, Heart-E Master, 8th ring true body master." Tiger Love said, "Sun Buru, why are you blocking our way?" Sun Buru laughed coldly and said, "Where's Sunbai?" Lei Xingfeng understood. This person should be related to Sunbai. Tiger Love said indifferently, "Sorry, we killed him." Sun Buru's eyes flashed with killing intent. He said, "Give me a reason. Why did you kill him?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Put me down first." Mad Eagle and Tiger Love glanced at each other. Tiger Love said, "Let's go down." Sun Buru didn't object. He jumped down first. Tiger Love and Mad Eagle landed back on Tilong Island. Lei Xingfeng came down from Mad Eagle's back and whispered to Mad Eagle, "You two work together and kill him." Sun Buru stabilized himself and said, "Can we talk now?" In fact, he was also very afraid. His opponents were two 8th ring sages, and he didn't want to fight unless it was absolutely necessary. Of course, he had to know the reason why they killed Sunbai. At the very least, he had to know if Sunbai had accidentally angered the two 8th ring sages and was killed. If that wasn't the case, then the problem was very serious. Mad Eagle and Tiger Love glanced at each other again. Their lips curled up as they pounced at Sun Buru at the same time. Sun Buru was shocked. In that instant, he understood many things. Their opponents were here for them. Otherwise, they wouldn't have attacked without saying anything. Even a 9th ring Dolua would have to dodge the attacks of two 8th ring Dolua masters. So Sun Buru wasn't stupid enough to take them head on. His body seemed to be pulled by an invisible chain, and he suddenly retreated. His speed was so fast that Feng Ying and Shihu's attacks missed. Boom! The attacks landed on the ground. Instantly, a huge cloud of dust rose up. The two's attack destroyed a third of the buildings on the island. Flames erupted up to 100 meters high. Lei Xingfeng cursed. His body flickered. His speed was also fast. He instantly flashed to the shore and jumped into the lake without hesitation. Even though he was a 5th ring true master, he didn't dare to be affected by the battle between 8th ring true masters. Sun Buru cursed. He didn't dare to fight with two 8th ring true masters. Without hesitation, he flew away. Tiger Love was prepared. He instantly blocked Sun Buru's path. The two exchanged a blow. Mad Eagle attacked Sun Buru from behind. Sun Buru was so angry that he screamed and fled to the side. The three of them fought on Tilong Island. In just a few minutes, the entire island was destroyed. Lei Xingfeng had already swam a few hundred meters away. He could see many small boats rowing towards the distance. They were all cultivators. They weren't stupid and knew that staying in the battle would bring them bad luck. They all ran away faster than rabbits. Lei Xingfeng suddenly jumped onto a small boat. Swimming in the water wasn't as comfortable as sitting on a boat. There were 4 cultivators on the boat. They were all low-level cultivators. The strongest was only a mill wheel master. Seeing Lei Xingfeng get on the boat, the 4 of them were all from Tilong Island. They had seen Lei Xingfeng before and knew that he was a true master. The 4 of them had a tacit understanding. Seeing Lei Xingfeng get on the boat, the 4 of them jumped into the water at the same time. Lei Xingfeng didn't want to chase them away. Seeing them jump into the water, he couldn't help but shake his head. He was too lazy to say anything and went to the back of the boat. He took out a steel paddle and rowed away. Sun Buru roared like thunder. He dodged left and right in an attempt to escape. Actually, Mad Eagle and Tiger Love were also having headaches. They felt helpless against an 8th ring cultivator who wanted to escape. One must know that their strength was similar. Even if Mad Eagle and Tiger Love teamed up, Sun Buru didn't want to fight head-on. They couldn't do anything unless the opponent fought head-on. But Sun Buru wasn't that stupid. He didn't want to fight head-on. He would dodge if he could, and escape if he could. The 3 of them circled back and forth above the island, occasionally attacking. Sun Buru circled around for a full 10 minutes before he finally found an opportunity to escape the battlefield. He didn't even leave behind a single word as he continued to escape. Mad Eagle and Tiger Love couldn't stop him. They smiled bitterly and came back to find Lei Xingfeng. Lei Xingfeng saw Mad Eagle and Tiger Love land on the boat. He said, "That guy ran away?" The battle was too intense. The entire island was covered in smoke. He couldn't see the 3 of them clearly. However, he guessed that the 2 didn't succeed. If an 8th ring sage wants to escape, even a 9th ring sage might not be able to stop him. Feng Ying said, "Haha, this guy got away. He's very smart. From the moment we started attacking, he was already planning to escape. With just the 2 of us, we can't catch him or even injure him. Unless we can restrict his movements, there's nothing we can do." Xi and Feng also knew that with an 8th ringed body, one's strength had reached a level where they could move freely. According to his estimations, only a higher level practitioner, such as a true monarch, would be able to forcefully suppress them. People of the same level were simply unthinkable. Mad Eagle said, "We should leave as soon as possible. This guy must have strong backup. If a 9th ring cultivator comes, the 2 of us won't have a problem. But it's not good for you." Chapter 151. Lei Xingfeng nodded. "All right, we'll leave immediately." "Oh, right. Will this fellow be able to track us?" It had been a month since he returned to the secret hidden space, and Lei Xingfeng had always been depressed. His failure to find Thunderstorm and Lei Xian Yao made him very depressed. He basically stayed at home this month, consolidating his 5th ring body and studying. When he first returned, Lei Xingfeng purposely went to find his master Gucci and told him about his situation. Gucci only comforted him, but his wife Tang asked him about Lei Xian Yao's situation and told him to find his senior brothers and sisters for help. However, Lei Xingfeng felt that he wasn't familiar with his senior brothers and sisters and was too embarrassed to ask. Now, Lei Xingfeng's only thought was to reach 9th ring as soon as possible. At that time, he would have the strength to dominate the entire continent, and he wouldn't have to be afraid of people like Sun Buru. Lei Xingfeng sat in his room, and after a round of training, he let out a deep breath. He stood up and walked a few steps. After thinking for a while, He walked out of his room and quickly washed up. He changed into a set of white silk clothes and went to the courtyard. This was the core area of the secret hidden space where Gucci, his wife, and his disciples lived. It was the best place in the secret hidden space, and it was very magical. It was as warm as spring all year round. So the trees here were evergreen and flowers bloomed all year round, especially where the 9 disciples lived. Each of them occupied a large area and had countless subordinates to order around. Although Lei Xingfeng was the youngest disciple, he was treated the same as the other disciples, with a large group of guards and servants. In his residence, even the servants were practitioners, and normal people couldn't enter at all. This was also why Lei Xingfeng wanted to bring his little sister back, because this place was really safe. If his little sister lived here, he would be completely at ease. Unfortunately, whether it was Yi or his little sister, there was no trace of them. The sky was blue, and Lei Xingfeng didn't understand what the secret hidden space was. This world also had a sun and 7 moons, just like the Wanxi continent and the Barbarian Gathering continent. The only difference was the climate, which was very suitable for humans. The air was very fresh, and the plants grew very well. Just like his courtyard, if no one took care of it, it would be full of plants in less than a month. The chief steward, AI-8, accompanied by Lei Xingfeng's chief steward, Ishannel, came in. Lei Xingfeng asked, "Uncle AI-8, what's the matter?" AI-8 smiled and said, "Master wants you to go." Lei Xingfeng said, "Master, why do you want me?" AI-8 shook his head and said, "I don't know. Go quickly." Lei Xingfeng said as he walked, "You can just ask someone to inform me." "Uncle, why do you have to come personally?" AI-8 smiled and said, "I happen to be on the way. I have other things to do, so I won't accompany you." Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "Got it." Ishannel said, "The car is ready. I'll go with you. There are still some things to pick up." Lei Xingfeng went out and took the car, followed by a group of guards and servants. He gradually got used to being followed. At first, he didn't like it very much, but gradually he began to enjoy it. This was a life he had never thought of in his previous life. He only cared about cultivation and learning, and other things were arranged by others. Anything, as long as he gave the order, someone would immediately do it, which made him feel relieved. Lei Xingfeng came to Gucci's cultivation room. Gucci stood there, his whole body rippling with inexplicable fluctuations. This kind of cultivation was incomprehensible to Lei Xingfeng. He could clearly see that there seemed to be a layer of transparent things on Gucci's body, which were constantly fluctuating, like ripples on the surface of the water. Especially the air around his head. The fluctuations were even stronger. After waiting for about 10 minutes, the fluctuations on Gucci's body gradually calmed down and disappeared. Gucci let out a long breath, opened his eyes, and said, "A phone, let's talk outside." Lei Xingfeng followed Gucci to the outer room. Gucci was a person who liked to enjoy life. Whether it was the buildings or the various daily necessities, they were all beautiful and exquisite to the extreme. This was because he had enough manpower and resources to squander. In this room, the floor was covered with a thick silk carpet, and there were extremely precious furs. The furniture was made of top-grade Japanese ash wood. Japanese ash wood was produced in hot and humid places, and its growth period was so long that it made people despair. It couldn't be used without hundreds of years. The best material was over 1,000 years old, and its color was light yellow. Once it was made into furniture, it didn't need any paint. The wood itself would secrete a layer of delicate wax, and at the same time, it would emit a very light fragrance. In this world, it was the best wood. Gucci let Lei Xingfeng sit down and said, "A phone. Yesterday your 3rd senior brother came over." Lei Xingfeng said, "Didn't 3rd senior brother go out?" Gucci said, And he just came back. Don't interrupt. Listen to me. Lei Xingfeng laughed. Okay, master, go on, Gucci said, your third senior brother is preparing to go to Hanya Castle, and he plans to bring a few people with him. Do you want to go? Lei Xingfeng asked curiously. What kind of place is Hanya Castle? Gucci said, an outpost, another world. Lei Xingfeng didn't understand. Another world? Gucci said, and it's not the world you were born in. Lei Xingfeng said in shock. What the? I don't understand. How can we go to another world? Master, please explain. Gucci scolded with a smile. Explain my ass. Lei Xingfeng said, Master, I'm curious. He despised himself for acting cute. Gucci said, the reason why we're called a secret sect is not because we're a secret sect, but because we have the ability to go to different worlds. This secret door is the door to other worlds. That's why it's called a secret hidden space. This place is a transit station. Without great power, it's impossible to open up such a space. Understand? Lei Xingfeng scratched his head and laughed bitterly. I don't understand. Gucci said, I didn't plan on letting you understand. Lei Xingfeng was defeated and said, fine, I won't lose anything if I don't understand. Gucci said, are you going or not? You can bring a few people over. Let me tell you, this is an opportunity. Hanya Castle, the resources there are abundant, although it's dangerous, but the rewards will be good. You can also train your fighting ability. It's good to go and relax. He tempted. Lei Xingfeng suddenly understood. Master was afraid that he would be too bored at home, so he wanted him to go and relax at the same time. He thought for a while and said, okay, I'll go. Gucci said, Hanya Castle doesn't produce food. Only various kinds of meat. Other than meat, you have to bring your own supplies. Also, it's very cold there. It's a world of ice and snow, and the natives there are quite fierce. You have to bring some guards. Lei Xingfeng nodded. I understand, Master. Yi and little sister still need Master to ask people to help find them. Gucci reached out and patted Lei Xingfeng's head and laughed. I understand. I've already asked people to look. This requires a bit of luck. Lei Xingfeng said, thank you, Master. Gucci said, go find senior brother. Third senior brother is Xian Zhaoluan. According to Lei Xingfeng, third senior brother is a love saint. After finding Xian Zhaoluan, Lei Xingfeng laughed and asked, senior brother, you're going to Hanya Castle? Xian Zhaoluan said curiously, how did you know? Oh, did Master tell you? Lei Xingfeng laughed, and Master said you're going. He asked me to go too. Xian Zhaoluan didn't mind. He sized up Lei Xingfeng and said in surprise, when did you break through? Good guy. So fast. No wonder Master asked you to go. A true ring sage. It's much less dangerous there. And in a few days, come find me. Lei Xingfeng said, okay, what do you want to remind me of? Xian Zhaoluan said, and you have to have enough supplies, especially wood for heating. It's too cold there. Also bring more food and vegetables. There's almost nothing to eat there except meat. Lei Xingfeng said, I'll remember. What else do you need? Xian Zhaoluan said, actually, there's a lot of good stuff there, but you need to go to the wilderness to find it. Go ask Old Eagle. He's been to Hanya Castle before. It's better to listen to his advice. Lei Xingfeng agreed, then left. Back home, Lei Xingfeng immediately called for Mad Eagle and Tiger Love. Mad Eagle and Tiger Love came to Lei Xingfeng's side. Mad Eagle said, a phone. Why are you in such a hurry to find us? Lei Xingfeng smiled. Do you know Hanya Castle? Mad Eagle's face showed a surprised expression. He said, I know, I've been there a long time ago. It's rare. You want to go there? Lei Xingfeng said, that's right. If third senior brother wants to go, you can bring us along. Mad Eagle wailed, oh God, I'm going to that damned place again. It's cold and hungry. There's ice and snow everywhere. Fine. You're the master. You decide. Actually, he wasn't against going at all. He was just whining. Tiger Love couldn't stop laughing. Lei Xingfeng asked curiously, "Why is Uncle Ing like this?" Mad Eagle sighed. He didn't say anything. Tiger Love said, "He was only a third ring back then. He was brought to Hanya Castle. The most important thing was he didn't bring enough supplies. The result, you saw it. He has a deep grudge against Hanya Castle. Hey, Old Eagle, you actually got a lot of benefits back then. During that period of cold, you became a fifth ring sage. It's very impressive." Mad Eagle rubbed his nose. He said, "Damn, if I didn't level up quickly, I would have frozen to death. I can't bear to think about it." Lei Xingfeng said, "Has Uncle Tiger been there before?" Tiger Love said, "I haven't, but I've heard a lot of legends. Back then, many of us died in Hanya Castle. Actually, those with one ring sage strength can go to the wilderness. Of course, you can't go too far. There's a lot of income there. As for Wan Luan Shi and Mill Wheel Masters, as long as they don't leave the castle, it's not a big problem. As long as they have enough supplies, they can survive." Mad Eagle said, "Nonsense, Tiger. You haven't seen the extreme cold there. If you're not strong enough, you really will die." Chapter 152. Lei Xingfeng said, "AI, Uncle Ing, don't make it sound so scary. Since it's so dangerous, why do we still want to go?" Mad Eagle said, "You're joking. That place is a treasure trove. It's not a place you can go just because you want to. Although it's dangerous, if there's a chance, everyone will fight for it. As long as we're well prepared, that place is a good place for us to cultivate and gather materials." Lei Xingfeng said, "What materials do we need to prepare?" "Uncle Ing, you should have a lot of experience." Mad Eagle said, "Leave it all to me. I'd rather have more than enough." Tiger Love was still laughing. He knew that ever since this guy suffered a loss, he had always prepared a lot of food. Because the appetite of cultivators was very large, especially in cold places, the food consumption was even greater. If he didn't prepare enough, it would indeed not be enough. Mad Eagle knew what his old friend was thinking. He smiled and said, "It's been a long time since I stockpiled large amounts of food. If I didn't hear a Feng say that he wanted to go there, I wouldn't have stockpiled food either." A Feng, to be honest, Hanya Castle is indeed a very good place for cultivation. From first ring to sixth ring, it's the most suitable place for cultivation. Lei Xingfeng nodded. "All right, let's gather food together." There was a large amount of food in the hidden space, all kinds of food. The hidden space was the best place for plants to grow. In the outer layer of the hidden space, there were many ordinary people living there. They were all servants of the hidden sect, specialized in all kinds of production. Lei Xingfeng brought 2 guards here to collect food. Manager Ishanel personally brought a group of people here. They arrived at a large manor. According to Manager Ishanel, this manor belonged to Lei Xingfeng. Every disciple of Gucci had their own manor. Lei Xingfeng was no exception. He had 5 large manors and 17 small manors. There were tens of thousands of people working for him, all managed by the manager. Lei Xingfeng sometimes felt like he was in a dream. He never thought that he would have so many subordinates. Sitting in the manor, the head of the manor brought a large number of people to serve him. As long as Lei Xingfeng said what he wanted, the big boss would immediately organize people to gather it. A true master's hidden Luan space is very big and can store many items, but there is one thing: it can't be kept fresh for long periods of time. Fresh fruits and vegetables may not rot, but they will quickly dry up, so it can only store dry goods. If you want to store food for a long period of time, it will be more complicated. Lei Xingfeng wrote a list for the big boss. It was all dried vegetables, such as dried mushrooms, dried bamboo shoots, and so on. There was also a lot of food produced in the manor, such as all kinds of salted meat, sauced meat, dried chicken and duck, and all kinds of beans, mainly green beans and soybeans. Lei Xingfeng was surprised to find these two kinds of beans here. After the food was prepared, they began to prepare the fuel. It was mainly wood. There were a few special kinds of oil, wood that needed to be collected in large quantities. This oil, wood, was very flammable and very resistant to burning. There were also various kinds of charcoal. A basket of 200 kilograms of charcoal. Lei Xingfeng asked for 100 baskets in one go. The three of them split it evenly. Each of them had 30 baskets, enough to keep warm. The three of them were like locusts under the command of the butler Ishan. All kinds of supplies were sent to the manor. Lei Xingfeng and the rest put them into the hidden Luan space. After busying for 3 days, they collected a large amount of food and supplies. Only then was Mad Eagle satisfied. After resting for a day, Lei Xingfeng brought Mad Eagle and Tiger Love to third senior brother Xian Jialuan's residence. His butler, Ai Sishan, was already waiting at the door. Ai Sishan smiled. "Little ninth master, master's in the room. Please follow me." Lei Xingfeng said, "13th uncle, what do you mean by little ninth master? It sounds so bad. Just call me a phone." Ai Sishan said very seriously, "I don't dare. Rules are rules, little ninth master. You don't need to persuade me." Lei Xingfeng muttered, "So boring." Among the housekeepers, Xian Jialuan's subordinates were the most strict and rigid. Their actions and words were all well behaved, and they never overstepped their boundaries. However, Xian Jialuan admired him a lot. In his third senior brother's house, Ai Sishan had a very high status. Walking into the room, Xian Jialuan was talking to a girl. Seeing Lei Xingfeng come in, he smiled. "A Feng is here. Let me introduce you. This is your 8th senior sister, Miao Ling." This was a very normal-looking girl. She was so normal that if you threw her into a crowd, you wouldn't be able to find her. She wore a light blue dress. Her expression was indifferent. Seeing Lei Xingfeng, she smiled faintly and said, "Miao Ling, great true Luanine master." She was a true master with 4 true ring bodies. Lei Xingfeng didn't dare to be disrespectful and said, "Lei Xingfeng, treasure Luanine master." Miao Ling was shocked. 5 true ring bodies. Lei Xingfeng said, "I just broke through. Hee, 8th senior sister. Nice to meet you. Please take care of me." Miao Ling said, "Amazing. You're 1 level higher than me. How did junior brother train?" She was quite happy. She had always been the youngest. She didn't expect a junior brother to come. Xian Jialuan said, "Master didn't want to take in any more disciples. He couldn't help it after seeing 9th junior brother. His talent is too good." Lei Xingfeng smiled and didn't say anything. Xian Jialuan said, "This is a rare opportunity. Junior sister Miao will come with us. She will bring 2 guards, a total of 3 people. A Feng, you'll bring 2 of them?" Lei Xingfeng nodded. "No choice, I'm too weak. I can only bring 2 experts." Xian Jialuan said, "And if that's the case, we'll go with 7 people. Never mind, I'll bring 1 too. Ai Sishan, do you want to come with me?" Ai Sishan said seriously, "Third master, I won't go. This spot is rare. Let's give it to someone who needs it. Let Xiao Dia come. He has reached his 2nd true ring body for a long time. Going to Hanya Castle will be of great help to him." Xian Jialuan said, "You? All right, let Xiao Dia come with us." Xiao Dia was Xian Jialuan's bodyguard. In fact, he wasn't much different from his disciple. He was a perfected one who was personally taught by Xian Jialuan. Because Xian Jialuan hadn't crossed the 9th ring and become a monarch, he couldn't accept a disciple. Miao Ling said, "Third senior brother, when are we leaving?" Xian Jialuan said, "Tomorrow." "Oh, right. Junior sister, have you collected the supplies? Especially the food. Miao Ling smiled. I've collected them long ago. Hee hee, Sister Hong helped me. Xian Zhaoluan said, That's good. Don't go home today. We'll leave early in the morning. Just rest at my place for the night. Lei Xingfeng and Miao Ling agreed. Xian Zhaoluan let AI Xishan arrange their accommodations. Xian Zhaoluan's residence was huge and had many rooms. The next morning, everyone gathered and left with Xian Zhaoluan. Soon, they arrived at the ancestral master's residence. Lei Xingfeng asked curiously, Why are you looking for the ancestral master? Xian Zhaoluan explained, We need the ancestral master's help before we can go over. Lei Xingfeng said, When did the ancestral master come back? I even went to visit him this time. Didn't he go out? Xian Zhaoluan said, He's been back for more than 10 days. You've been cooped up at home. Of course you wouldn't know. Lei Xingfeng said, I just didn't want to go out. I was busy cultivating. Soon, the car arrived at the ancestral master's residence. Everyone followed Xian Zhaoluan into the room. Xian Feng followed behind and saw the ancestor. He had always been curious about this ancestor. The most eye-catching thing was that he didn't know how old this fellow was in Xian Feng's mind. If this fellow wasn't 1,000 years old, he was at least 800 years old. However, his appearance was completely different. He looked extremely flirtatious. Sometimes even Xian Feng couldn't tell if this person was a man or a woman. Every time he saw him, a strange feeling would appear in his heart. The ancestral master, Wu Yang, saw the group enter and scolded jokingly, A bunch of little brats. You just came back, and you're already tormenting me. Lei Xingfeng was very good at flattering. He immediately went forward and said, Greetings, ancestral master. Wu Yang smiled. Not bad, not bad. You didn't slack off. Your cultivation speed is very fast. You already have 5 true ring bodies. Lei Xingfeng laughed. That's because I'm lucky. Hee hee. Wu Yang said, Cultivation has nothing to do with luck. If you don't work hard, you won't be able to advance. Xian Zhaoluan and Miao Ling also went forward and said, Greetings, ancestral master. Xian Zhaoluan even specially thanked him. This time, we'll have to trouble you, ancestral master. Wu Yang jokingly scolded, Of course it's trouble. It's not safe to stay here. Wouldn't it be better to let your master open it? Why did you have to trouble me? Really? When Lei Xingfeng heard Wu Yang calling himself an old man, he had goosebumps. This guy's appearance was absolutely devilish. It wouldn't be wrong to say that he was a woman. He was too beautiful. However, he didn't dare to say anything. Not to mention that he was the ancestral master. His strength was enough to scare people to death. This was a person that needed to be looked up to. Xian Zhaoluan laughed. Master has matters to attend to. Hee hee, I can only trouble you, ancestral master. Wu Yang was only grumbling a little. He said, Follow me. The few of them followed him inside. He said, Are all the resources prepared? Going to Hanya Castle. You can't just leave whenever you want. If you don't prepare enough, you'll suffer. Xian Zhaoluan respectfully said, Everything is prepared. Wu Yang nodded. He brought them to a strange black door frame. Xian Feng was curious as he thought to himself, What is this plaything? A black frame? Miao Ling whispered, This is the secret door. Without a certain level of strength, it's impossible to open it. Lei Xingfeng didn't understand at all. This frame had the shape of a door, but strictly speaking, it was just a black frame on the ground. What kind of secret door was this? Wu Yang laughed. A Feng, is this the first time you've seen a secret door? Lei Xingfeng said, That's weird. How can this empty frame be a secret door? Wuri said, This door is mine. Your master also has his own secret door. Once you surpass the 9th ring, true body, and become a true monarch, you can build your own secret door. At that time, you can enter all kinds of worlds. Chapter 153. Lei Xingfeng was dumbfounded. This was too miraculous. He asked, Grandmaster, are you saying that if I can become a monarch and create my own secret door, I can enter another world? Wu Yong said, That's right. Of course, there are still many mysteries. You can't enter any world just because you have a secret door. You need a lot of preparation, especially the creation of a secret door. It requires a lot of resources. Before that, you need someone to lead you in and help you. For example, your master? Lei Xingfeng said, If I can't become a monarch, then I can't create the secret door? Wu Yong smiled. Of course. A ninth ring true body is nothing. A ninth ring true body is only the minimum requirement. If you can't meet this requirement, then everything else is useless. Lei Xingfeng smiled bitterly. No wonder. Wu Yong said, All right, your cultivation is still low. Hurry up and cultivate. Xian Feng was extremely excited. He had suddenly discovered a new world. With the training method his grandpa gave him, he believed that he would definitely be able to reach the level of a monarch. Xian Jiaoluan said, It's almost time. Wu Yong nodded. All right, I'm going to open the secret door. Feng, look carefully. First, opening the secret door requires yin rings. 2 yin rings at a time. As he spoke, he took out 2 yin rings. They were golden and looked very much like golden rings. Lei Xingfeng's heart skipped a beat. Up until now, he had never seen yin rings. He had Luan rings and Luan yin rings, but he didn't have a yin ring. But when he saw the yin rings that Wu Yong took out, he felt a sense of familiarity. He was very curious and thought, I think I've seen it before. I've seen yin rings. Where have I seen them? Suddenly, a thought flashed through his mind. He suddenly remembered the ancient golden ring he got from the ancient hidden Luan. Could it be that it wasn't a golden ring, but a yin ring? With a flip of his wrist, he took out an ancient golden ring and said, Grandmaster, have you seen it before? Wu Yong said in surprise, ancient yin ring. Where did you get it? This is good stuff. Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. If he didn't like gold back then, he wouldn't have collected these ancient yin rings. Back then, not only did Yi not recognize them, the others probably didn't recognize them either. They all thought that they were ancient gold rings, and never would they have thought that they were ancient yin rings. The two were only one word apart, but they were two completely different concepts. He collected a lot of ancient yin rings back then. Lei Xingfeng said, I got them from an ancient hidden Luan. Wu Yong said, That's hard to come by. Feng, if you get more, trade some with me. Lei Xingfeng wasn't an idiot who didn't know anything. He took out a few dozen ancient seal rings and said, Patriarch, there's no need to exchange them. Consider this my gift to you. Xian Jiaoluan was a bit jealous. He said, TSK, this flattery is really good. Wu Yong smiled and said, Good child. If you have any problems in the future, come find me. I'll help you. Receiving the ancient yin rings, Wu Yong picked one up and lightly brushed his finger across the surface of the ancient yin ring. Suddenly, a golden light flashed, and the entire ancient yin ring became completely different, emitting a faint glow. He said, This is a sealed ancient yin ring. If it wasn't sealed, it would be no different from a golden ring. If you're not an expert, you'll easily overlook it. Lei Xingfeng was stunned. There was such a thing? No wonder no one paid attention to it back then. If he wasn't a miser, he wouldn't have taken these ancient yin rings. Wu Yong said, All right, time is limited. I'm going to open it. He put away the ancient yin rings in his hand and pressed his own yin rings on the corners of the black door frame. Pressing one ring on each corner, the black door frame began to vibrate. The vibrations in the door frame gradually formed a silver film of light. Wu Yong reached out and hit the silver film of light with his palm. Then, he heard an extremely soft cracking sound. The silver film of light suddenly turned into countless tiny specks of light and disappeared. However, a picture appeared in the door frame. It was a picture of a world of ice and snow. Lei Xingfeng suddenly realized that it wasn't a picture, but an actual natural enemy. He could even feel the cold wind blowing in from the door. Wu Yong said, "Don't waste any more time. Go in." Xian Jialuan said, "Follow me." He took the lead and entered the secret door. The others followed closely behind. Lei Xingfeng stepped through the door. Instantly, an extremely cold air invaded his body. He turned around, but there was nothing behind him. Suddenly, Mad Eagle and Tiger Love appeared out of thin air. It was a shocking sight. Then he shouted, "It's so cold! It's so cold!" He hurriedly put on the fur coat that he had prepared. Luckily, Lei Xingfeng had lived in Tiger Cliff Castle in this life. That place was also famous for being cold. Although it wasn't as cold as here, he quickly adapted. The one who couldn't adapt the most was Miao Ling. She had never lived in a cold place before. After entering, her feet were cold. Before she could even put on her thick fur coat, her limbs were already numb. Xian Jialuan scolded, "Why are you so stupid? Activate your defense. How long do you think you can last?" Miao Ling was scolded to the point that she didn't get angry at all. She immediately activated her defense. This made her feel slightly better. However, activating her defense consumed a lot of energy. She couldn't last for long. But in the short time that she activated her defense, she was able to put on her clothes. This time, there were a total of 8 people coming to Hanya Castle. Xian Jialuan brought Xiaodia. Miao Ling brought 2 guards. One was called Hong Jia, a 9th ring sage. The other was Wei Jia, a 7th ring sage. Lei Xingfeng brought Mad Eagle and Tiger Love. Thus, in this trip to Hanya Castle, there were 2 9th ringed, 2 8th ringed, 1 7th ringed, 1 5th ringed, 1 4th ringed, and 1 2nd ringed. Their strength was unprecedented in Xian Feng's eyes. Only after Lei Xingfeng finished putting on his clothes did he have the time to look around. All he saw were trees. The trees here were very unique. Every tree grew perfectly straight. Most of them were as thick as a water bucket. There were a few branches, and the leaves were all reduced to needles. Lei Xingfeng was confused. "Aren't there trees here? Can't we just cut them down and burn them?" Mad Eagle laughed. "This is steelwood. It can't be burned. It's a cold-type tree." Xian Jialuan said, "This tree is a material for making weapons, and it can also be used to make some special boxes. It's also an excellent building material here. It naturally emits cold air." Lei Xingfeng said, "If it's used to make furniture in a hot place, it should be good." Xian Jialuan laughed. "That won't do. Someone tried it before. Once it's in a hot place, these furniture will keep releasing water droplets. Others might not understand, but Lei Xingfeng understood immediately. It was like taking out a bowl from the fridge in summer. Very quickly, a lot of water vapor would condense. He said, "This tree is special." "Oh, right. Senior brother, where is Hanya Castle?" Xian Jialuan said, "You can see it after passing through this forest. It's very close." Mad Eagle said, "That's right. If it's too far, it'll be dangerous. It's very dangerous in this weather." Xian Jialuan waited for everyone to put on their thick coats before saying, "Let's go. The snow here is very deep. If we walk, it'll be too difficult. Those of us who can fly carry those who can't." Mad Eagle crouched down and carried Lei Xingfeng, Hong Jie carried Miaoling, and Xian Zhaoluan carried Xiaodia. They all flew up to the treetops and flew forward. Lei Xingfeng noticed that the sky was gloomy, but the ground was covered in a layer of white snow. Countless icicles hung on the trees, and strange roars could be heard from time to time. Because they were flying, everyone's speed was incomparably fast. In just a moment, they flew over a mountain ridge. Lei Xingfeng saw an extremely majestic giant castle. Hanya Castle was a gigantic castle made of steel and ice. When this castle was first built, it was made of steel and then watered with water. Because this place was extremely cold, once the water cooled down, it would quickly condense into ice. This was how the castle's giant outer wall was built. It was said that it took a very short time to build a 100-meter-tall ice wall. After a few hundred years of expansion, Hanya Castle expanded from a small castle to a giant castle that occupied a few hundred kilometers. Just the ice wall alone had 9 layers. In other words, there were 9 city walls. Each city wall encircled a large piece of land. These city walls weren't planned. Instead, a group of people came. If they couldn't gain a foothold, they would invite a group of people who didn't have a territory to encircle the land and build the ice wall. Because the land here didn't cost money, as long as you had the ability, no one would care about how big the land was. And the ice wall was very easy to build. As long as there were enough steel and water, as well as enough fuel to melt the ice, it wouldn't take long for an ice wall to form. Therefore, the ice walls here were often shaped like fish scales expanding outwards. Inside the castle, there were countless small city walls, one after another, forming a maze-like city. Seeing this castle made of steel and ice, Lei Xingfeng was shocked, speechless. It was too King spectacular. Xian Zhaoluan said, "I have a piece of land here. I've already encircled it with ice walls, but I haven't built a house yet. When we get there, we'll have to do it ourselves." Mad Eagle reminded, "Here, there's no sense of community. Everyone fights for themselves. We don't bully people, but if someone bullies us, we'll immediately kill them." Xian Zhaoluan said, "Yeah, it's very messy here. There are all kinds of people here. The language is also very messy. Everyone needs a common language. When we settle down, I'll teach you." In the sky, there were people flying by from time to time. Their speed was very fast, and they were trying their best to keep their distance. Miaoling said, "This place is very dangerous." Xian Zhaoluan said, "Of course. If not, why would you need to have a certain level of strength to come here? If you're not a true master, you won't be able to withstand the cold, not to mention the killings of all kinds of races here." Lei Xingfeng asked curiously, "Senior brother, then why did you come here?" Xian Zhaoluan said, "I found a mine here. I need this kind of, I also need everyone to help me mine. Yeah, this is one of the materials I prepared for the secret door. You guys need it too." Chapter 154. Lei Xingfeng finally understood, but he didn't have any objections. Although he didn't know what kind of material it was, but since it was needed for the secret door, then he needed it too. Preparing early and not preparing at all were 2 completely different things. Xian Zhaoluan said, "Everyone be careful, we're going in. Follow me, don't fly around randomly." He didn't fly in a straight line. Instead, he flew along the ice wall and quickly arrived at an empty space surrounded by the ice wall. Lei Xingfeng noticed that when they flew over the ice wall, he felt like he was being watched. It was very uncomfortable. This piece of land was about 1 mu in size, completely covered in ice and snow. The snow had almost reached half the height of the ice wall. The ice wall here was about 30 meters tall. When they landed, Xian Zhaoluan struck the air with his palm, creating a huge hole before they landed. Xian Zhaoluan said. Everyone stand still. Don't move. I'll take care of it. In just a few moments, Xian Zhaoluan kept all the snow on the ground into his hidden Luan space. He was a 9th ring master. His hidden Luan space was huge. Lei Xingfeng and the rest couldn't compare to it. Xian Zhaoluan said, building the house today. There's still half a day left. We should be able to make it. Lei Xingfeng, Miao Ling, and Xiao Dia were all stunned. Lei Xingfeng was confused. Senior brother, this building the house in one day? Xian Zhaoluan nodded. That's right. It won't even take a day. It won't be long. I've already asked someone to build the framework. Miao Ling was shocked. Senior brother, what kind of framework is it? Xian Zhaoluan waved his hand. A framework made purely of steel appeared in front of everyone. It was a very simple square frame, about 2 meters tall, 3 meters long, and 3 meters wide. The so-called wall was a half-meter thick space fixed by steel, filled with wood fragments. It was a type of softwood with many holes. Mad Eagle could not help but gasp in admiration. They actually used driftwood to fill it. Hee, after pouring water on it. This ice wall is definitely extraordinary. It can even block out the cold air. He took out a big pot and set up a fire to melt the snow. Lei Xingfeng finally understood that the buildings here were made this way. Even if water was a binder, it was also sand and cement. It was a very good idea. In this world of ice and snow, what better building material could there be? The 8 of them were all true human-level experts. Not only were they extremely strong, they also had their hidden Luan spaces. They didn't even need to use much strength. All the buildings had various kinds of steel bars and iron wires made in advance. As long as they were placed in the right place and fixed with iron wires, they would be filled with water. The temperature here was extremely low. As long as the water left the heating flames, it would freeze at an unbelievable speed. It only took less than half a day to complete the construction. After some slight repairs with a shovel knife, the steel and ice room was completed. The floor was also covered with ice. After smoothing it, wooden planks several inches thick were placed on top of it. The walls were also surrounded by thick wooden planks. Then a thick animal skin cushion was laid on top of it. A large copper brazier was placed on top of it. A very comfortable room was finished. After Lei Xingfeng finished cleaning the room, he lit up the charcoal brazier. There was a special smoke outlet above the brazier. When the charcoal was lit up, the entire room became as warm as spring. A thick wooden door was installed, and a thick animal skin curtain was hung. Since the entire room was made of ice, light could penetrate into the room, and the room was not dark at all. Lei Xingfeng walked out of the room. To his left was Mad Eagle's room. To his right was Tiger Love's room. There were 3 rooms in a row. Opposite was Miao Ling and the other 2's rooms. To his left was also a row of 3 rooms, Xian Zhaoluan's and Xiao Dia's rooms. One of the rooms was for everyone to gather and eat. To his right was an empty space. Xian Zhaoluan had already opened a door on the ice wall and installed a thick wooden door. Lei Xingfeng walked to his side and asked, "Senior, how do we get out of here?" Xian Zhaoluan smiled. "I have already opened the door. From here, we can follow the ice wall and reach the main road very quickly. However, if there's nothing important, try not to go out. Also, the effect of cultivating here at night is very good. If you have nothing to do, try to cultivate." Lei Xingfeng asked curiously, "Very good for cultivating?" Xian Zhaoluan smiled. "This is a sacred place for cultivating. If not, why would there be so many cultivators trying to come in? You will know when you try it tonight." Lei Xingfeng said, "I see." Xian Zhaoluan said, "If not for the extreme cold and the difficulty of coming here, many of the cultivators in the secret space would have moved here. Unfortunately, this place is too dangerous for low-level cultivators. Just the cold alone is too much for them to handle. Lei Xingfeng said, I don't feel cold. Miao Ling just came out and said, It's not cold. I'm about to freeze to death. Xian Zhaolun smiled. It's okay now. When night comes, you will know what is cold. Miao Ling was already wrapped up like a dumpling. She even had a pair of fur gloves on her hands. She covered her face and only revealed 2 eyes. She kept saying, what should I do? What should I do? I will freeze to death. Xian Zhaolun looked at her strangely. He knew that Miao Ling rarely spoke. He did not expect her to be so lively here. This was not like her. Miao Ling jumped up and down to warm herself up. She said, I can't. I want to go back to my room to warm myself up. It's too cold. She then jumped up and ran away. Lei Xingfeng laughed. Senior Sister Miao has never lived in a cold place before. Xian Zhaolun said, She is from Hui Continent. There are 4 seasons there. But even in winter, the temperature is not low. Normal people can withstand it. Of course, she is not used to it. Lei Xingfeng said, Senior brother, how long do we have to stay here? Xian Zhaolun said, Wait for the next time the secret door opens. Then we can go back. Lei Xingfeng did not understand. What do you mean? Xian Zhaolun said, There is a limit to how long the secret door can be opened. It is not a place where you can come and go as you wish. It needs the right time and opportunity to open. Lei Xingfeng was surprised. If it can't be opened in 10 years, then we have to stay here for 10 years. Xian Zhaolun nodded. That's right. In theory, that's right. But it is impossible for it to not open in 10 years. Usually, it can be opened in half a year to a year. As long as we don't miss the opening time, there should be no problem. Lei Xingfeng was relieved. If he had to live here for 10 years, he would really go crazy. That meant that he could not go back to find Yi and his sister. Who knows what would happen after 10 years? He did not want to go back and find that everything had changed. I didn't think it would be so troublesome. Xian Zhaolun said, Actually, if you have your own secret door, it would not be so troublesome. Your own secret door would not have too many restrictions. Borrowing someone else's secret door is always inconvenient, even if it is your own elder. Lei Xingfeng said, When are we going to mine? Xian Zhaolun said, There is no rush. Let's rest for a while first. Luckily, it is not the coldest time yet. A phone. You don't seem to be afraid of the cold. Lei Xingfeng said, I grew up in the mountains of the barbarian gathering continent. The winter, there is quite cold. Xian Zhaolun suddenly understood and laughed. Growing up in the barbarian gathering continent, no wonder you are more resistant to the cold than Junior Sister Miao. After chatting for a while, Lei Xingfeng came to the room where everyone was gathered. Not only were Mad Eagle and Tiger Love in the room, Miao Ling and her 2 guards were also there. This room was much bigger, and the layout was different from everyone's room. In the middle of the room, there was a fire pit, a brick stove, and a long table. This was not only a place for everyone to gather and chat, but also a place for everyone to eat. Lei Xingfeng had just sat down when he heard a series of explosions coming from afar. Everyone knew that it was the sound of a battle. Xian Zhaolun came in and laughed. Don't be surprised. Battles happen frequently here. Deaths are normal. You cannot be humble here. Once you start fighting, you cannot show mercy. Miao Ling laughed bitterly. I don't like to fight. Sister Hong, if someone wants to hit me, you have to help me. Sister Hong said, You can't avoid fighting forever. I can only protect you for a while, not forever. She patted Miao Ling's head. It could be seen that the 2 of them had a good relationship. Xian Zhaoluan said, "It's fine here. We have more people and are stronger." Mad Eagle had been here before and explained softly, "Most of the people here are in groups of 2 or 3. There are a few strong lone travelers. Very few of them are in groups of 7 or 8. With the custom of everyone managing their own people, we are a powerful group. No one dares to mess with us." Mad Eagle's voice was not loud, but everyone could hear him. Before he could finish his sentence, someone shouted from outside, "Is anyone there? Come out and take a breather." Lei Xingfeng said, "Is this considered a provocation?" Xian Zhaoluan said, "Yes." This kind of provocation was common in Hanya Castle. It was not even worth mentioning. If the cultivators here were weak, it would be hard for them to survive. Since everyone had nothing to do, they all rushed out. 2 men stood on the ice wall. No one knew if they flew up or quietly climbed up. What surprised Lei Xingfeng was not this, but the 2 of them were wearing thin leather armor. A long fur belt hung around their necks. Their thick arms were bare. Both of them had big faces and thick beards. Their arms were also covered with thick hair. Both of them were holding weapons. One of them was holding a huge axe, while the other was holding a sledgehammer. The sledgehammer was no different from a water bucket, and they were both over 2 meters tall. That kind of terrifying and valiant aura was simply overwhelming. Xian Zhaoluan laughed when he came out. He said, "2 bastards, get down here." What made everyone's eyeballs drop to the ground was that the 2 of them actually jumped down from the ice wall. They landed on the ground and made 2 loud sounds. Then the 2 of them came to Xian Zhaoluan and gave him a bear hug. Immediately, Xian Zhaoluan's shadow disappeared. They heard Xian Zhaoluan's muffled voice, "Are you trying to suffocate me? Let go." Feng Ying was a bit surprised. These are the local aboriginals. They're definitely powerful aboriginals. They don't fear the cold, and their bodies are like steel. Their strength is shocking. Their only weakness is that they can't fly. Their strength is very famous in Hanya Castle. Even high-level practitioners don't want to be enemies with them. Chapter 155. Xian Zhaoluan laughed. "My friends, I asked them to look after this small courtyard. They probably saw us building a house and thought it was someone else's cultivator, so they came to find trouble, hee." Lei Xingfeng was very interested in these 2 ferocious-looking guys. He said, "Senior brother, introduce them. Are these 2 ferocious guys locals?" Xian Zhaoluan laughed. "Chui Zi Kuang Fu, and they are both locals, very powerful guys, hee." Saying that, he introduced everyone present to them. Chui Zi waved the huge steel hammer in his hand and said in a low, muffled voice, "Since they are Big Brother Xian's friends, then they are my Chui Zi's friends. If you have any problems in the future, just look for me. I will definitely help." Kuang Fu also waved his huge axe and said, "Just call me Fu too." Then, the 2 of them looked at Xian Zhaoluan anxiously. Everyone was frightened by the resentment in their eyes. Not knowing what they were up to, Xian Zhaoluan laughed helplessly and said, "All right, we are preparing dinner. Come and eat together." The 2 of them cried out in ecstasy, "That's great! Ah, there's food." With this weird shout, Miaoling was so scared that she almost fell to the ground. She muttered, "What's this? It's just dinner. Why are they so excited?" Chui Zi said excitedly, come in. Ha ha, Big Brother Xian is the best. I love Big Brother to death." Kuang Fu waved his axe and nodded, Yes, I love Big Brother to death." Hearing that, everyone had goosebumps. These words were too ambiguous, especially from these 2 incomparably ferocious guys. To say such words from their mouths, it was even more unbearable. Xian Zhaoluan shook his head helplessly. The natives here were very clear about love and hate, If they liked you, they would do anything. If they didn't like you, they would use their weapons to attack. These were two extremes. Their personalities were straightforward. They did not have many tricks up their sleeves. They would say one thing, two things. If they loved someone, they would love someone. If they wanted to kill someone, they would kill someone. They would not be pretentious at all. Returning to the room, there was already a big pot of stew on the charcoal brazier. It was a pot of stew. There was a mess of all kinds, fresh meat, soy sauce meat, and dried chicken and duck, all kinds of dried bamboo shoots and mushrooms. They were all placed in the pot. There was even a large amount of chili, gurgling and releasing a strong aroma. Chuizi ran to the side of the pot. He could not help but drool. He said, "Is it cooked? Is it cooked? I am so hungry." Huang Feng put the axe in his hand next to the pot. He sat on it, his eyes fixed on the boiling soup, and said, "It smells so good, really good." Just like that, the two of them sat in front of the huge copper pot, swallowing their saliva madly. Their appearance of starving ghosts made the crowd both shocked and amused. However, among these people, Feng Ying didn't have a strange expression. He explained to Xian Feng in a small voice, "It's normal. The natives rarely eat their fill. Their staple food is raw meat, but they prefer to eat cooked meat with spices." Lei Xingfeng also whispered, "They only eat meat?" Mad Eagle shook his head and said, "They also like to eat all kinds of grains and vegetables. It is just that they can't eat them." Sister Hong was the chef. This pot of chowder was made by her. Everyone was given a copper basin, which was the size of a wash basin, and there were 2 pieces of hard bread in the basin. Lei Xingfeng tore the hard bread bit by bit, and when the chowder was ready, he just poured it over it. This was an extremely simple way to eat. Chuizi and Kuang Fu were very familiar with this way of eating. The two of them did not tear the bread into pieces like Lei Xingfeng, but directly tore it into the size of a palm, and looked at the big copper pot eagerly. Sister Hong scolded with a smile, "You 2 bastards, you only know how to eat. It will be rotten in a while." Chuizi said pitifully, "Big sister, meat with a strong bite is delicious." Sister Hong could only smile bitterly. She picked up a big copper spoon, reached out for Chuizi's copper basin, and scooped a few spoonfuls of meat and soup, and said, "Eat first. Fuzi, bring the basin over." Huang Fu said with a flattering expression, "Thank you, big sister." Sister Hong smiled. "You have to be polite when eating. All right, let's eat." With the addition of the 2 natives, the dishes were definitely not enough. Sister Hong took out a big copper pot and started to cook the second pot of chowder. Xian Zhaoluan said, "Chuizi, the people I asked you to find, have you found them all?" Chuizi said with a muffled voice as he ate, "No, not all. Including Fuzi, there are only 3 people." Xian Zhaoluan smiled bitterly and said, "You only found one person to help?" Chuizi said, "I can't find anyone. Big brother, recently someone is wantonly hiring people. If not for the agreement with you, we would have gone too." Xian Zhaoluan immediately became nervous. "Who is it that is wantonly hiring people?" Chuizi said, "A very powerful guy. He brought 2 people and hired more than 10 people. He is preparing to enter the mountains soon." Mad Eagle was shocked. "Enter the mountains? Are they crazy? Entering the mountains at this time? The weather is going to turn cold soon." Miao Ling was shocked. "What did you say? The weather is going to turn cold. Isn't it already very cold?" Mad Eagle said, "It's not cold yet. The real cold is not here yet." Miao Ling immediately covered her forehead and sighed. "Oh my God, it's not cold yet. Sister Hong, I regret coming here." She then jumped into Sister Hong's embrace. Sister Hong patted her back and smiled. "Don't worry. With Sister Hong here, there's nothing to be afraid of. At most, we will not go out and cultivate in our rooms." Miao Ling said, "Won't we be bored to death?" Xian Zhaoluan said, "Just train a bit. You are a cultivator, not a normal person." Miao Ling did not know what to do. She was lectured by her senior brother. Furthermore, it was her master who ordered her to come here, not her senior brother. Most importantly, she was curious and asked her master to come, so she could not blame anyone. With a crying face, she could not even eat anymore. She poured a plate of food to Cue Zi and went back to her room. Cue Zi suddenly got a plate of food. He could not help but smile and said, "Little miss is very good." Fu Tu tilted his head and looked. He was still busy stuffing a piece of meat into his mouth and said, "Idiot." Lei Xingfeng laughed. "Hiring people to enter the mountains, for what?" Cue Zi said, "Because we are not going, so they did not tell us." Xian Jiaoluan's face flashed with uneasiness. After a while, he said, "Rest for a few days, we will enter the mountains too." Miao Ling muttered, "I'm not going, it's too cold." Xian Jiaoluan said, "Junior sister, you don't have to go. Xiao Dia will stay too. I will bring a phone, and Cue Zi and Fu Tu will come too." Cue Zi said, "I'm fine with it." Fu Tu said, "As long as there is food, I'm fine with it too." If Lei Xingfeng went, Mad Eagle and Tiger Love would definitely go too, so there were 6 people. This was already a great force. Miao Ling, who was guarding the house, was not a big problem with Sister Hong. After Xian Jiaoluan arranged everything, he said, "All right, it's already dark. After eating, everyone should go back and rest." Cue Zi and Fu Tu were very satisfied with this meal. The 2 of them left after eating and invited Lei Xingfeng and the rest to their house to play. When they were free, they stayed next door. Lei Xingfeng also went back to his room. Mad Eagle and Tiger Love stayed on both sides, the 2 of them following Lei Xingfeng to his room. Feng Ying said, "If you want to go with Third Master, then the 2 of us will naturally go with you. However, we have to be careful when we go out this time. The weather will become extremely bad soon. Fortunately, we are well prepared. There shouldn't be any problems." Tiger Love said, "I heard this place is a holy land for cultivation, even better than our hidden space. Let's try it out tonight. Maybe I can reach 9th ring without using Yin rings." Ha! Mad Eagle shook his head. "Tiger, stop dreaming. Without the help of Yin rings, there is no way we can reach 9th ring. We already have no potential. The reason we reached this step is not because of our hard work, but because we have more Luan rings, Luan Yin rings, and most importantly, Yin rings. When we reach 8th ring, we have almost reached the limit, unless we use a large number of Yin rings to increase our cultivation. That's too extravagant. It's impossible." Lei Xingfeng asked curiously, "Uncle Ling, Uncle Tiger, how many Yin rings do you need to reach 9th ring?" Mad Eagle smiled bitterly. "Maybe 10, maybe 8, it's hard to say, but where can we get so many Yin rings? That's impossible." Lei Xingfeng said, "I have Yin rings, but they are ancient Yin rings. I don't know if they can be used." Mad Eagle and Tiger Love looked at each other. They didn't understand. Lei Xingfeng took out an ancient Yin ring, the one he had kept as a golden ring. Before the seal was removed, the ancient Yin ring was a strangely shaped golden ring. The 2 examined it for a long time. Mad Eagle even tried to use it to cultivate, but found no effect. He said, "Maybe we need to remove the seal before we can use it." If we want to remove the seal, we need to find Master Gu. Master Gu was Lei Xingfeng's master. Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, maybe we can use the ancient Yin rings to exchange for some Yin rings that you can use now. If you can reach 9th ring as soon as possible, I'll be more at ease." Mad Eagle and Tiger Love felt Lei Xingfeng's concern and thanked him happily. They chatted for a while, longer before leaving to cultivate in their own rooms. Lei Xingfeng waited for the 2 guards to leave before adding a few pieces of charcoal to the brazier. He stirred it with a pair of tongs, gradually raising the temperature. Only then did he sit down on the thick beast skin cushion and begin cultivating. As soon as he started to train, Xian Feng immediately felt the difference. This place was indeed very normal. The Luan Yinli in his body had already started to circulate quickly, gradually turning into Yinli, although the speed couldn't compare to the speed of training in a thunderstorm, but compared to normal training, it was at least twice as fast. It was no wonder that even though this place was extremely cold, there were still practitioners who wanted to come in. After a night of training, Xian Feng was pleasantly surprised. One must know that a thunderstorm was not that easy to encounter. He had thought that it would be easy to find one, but the number of thunderstorms he encountered could be counted on one's fingers. Although each time, it would bring him great surprises, but training still relied on the accumulation of time and effort, as well as the hard work he put in. Chapter 156. The next day, everyone had gained a lot. During breakfast, even Miao Ling, who wanted to leave the most, stopped talking about leaving. A night of cultivation here was equivalent to a few days of cultivation in the secret hidden space, not to mention the outside world. The difference was too great. Xian Zhaoluan left in a hurry after breakfast. The others returned to their rooms and continued cultivating. Once they discovered the benefits of cultivating here, they didn't want to waste any more time. After 2 days of continuous cultivation, Lei Xingfeng felt that it wasn't appropriate to continue. At this time, Xian Zhaoluan had returned with a friend. He was also a 9th ring sage named Jean Daya. His friends called him Big Tooth or Big Tooth Jean. He looked like an old man with eyes that never seemed to open. He was extremely thin and small. When he stood next to Lei Xingfeng, his height only reached Lei Xingfeng's waist. The difference between the two was huge. However, Jean Daya was very polite to everyone, especially to Lei Xingfeng and Miao Ling. He even seemed to be trying to curry favor with them. Lei Xingfeng didn't quite understand. With Jean Daya's strength, there was no need for him to curry favor with him. In the end, it was Mad Eagle who saw through Lei Xingfeng's confusion. He quietly explained, actually, he's only trying to curry favor with you because he wants the Yin Ring. He knows that you're a disciple of the hidden sect and have a chance to get the Yin Ring. Of course, he wouldn't dare offend you. Lei Xingfeng was confused. The Yin Ring is only useful when one reaches 9th ring. He's already 9th ring. Why does he need it? Without waiting for Mad Eagle's reply, Tiger Love said, it's not for advancing, but for prolonging his life. 1 Yin Ring is enough for him to live for 2 or 3 more years. Lei Xingfeng was shocked. The Yin Ring can be used like that? Mad Eagle nodded. Yes, although Yin Rings are extremely effective at prolonging one's life in the beginning. The more you use them, the less effective they become. Even so, 1 Yin Ring can extend one's life by a few months. Think about it, these 9th ringed masters, who wouldn't want to live a little longer? If they could advance, then everything would be different. Of course, that kind of good thing is almost impossible. Tiger Love nodded. That's right. A true monarch can live for at least 2,000 years. It's just that advancing to true monarch is too difficult. Lei Xingfeng said, my master has 9 disciples. At least half of them can become monarchs, right? Mad Eagle gave a wry smile and said, if there is 1, that would be amazing. Ha! If there are 2, that would be a miracle. Lei Xingfeng was secretly shocked. He didn't think that it would be so difficult to advance from 9th ring to true monarch. Xian Zhaoluan said, get ready. We're going into the mountain. Layers upon layers of snowy mountains. Looking from the foot of the mountain, it was a magnificent sight. The mountain was about 100 kilometers away from Hanya Castle. It only took about half an hour to fly. Because of the strong winds in the mountain, it wasn't suitable for cultivators to fly. They had to walk in the mountains. Of course, it was still possible to fly close to the ground. The wind here was very strong, and the whistling sound was terrifying. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. It was as sharp as a whistle. When the wind blew on the body, it was like a knife cutting. Everyone was wrapped in thick leather coats, but even so, they had to slightly activate their defenses. It was just too cold. Lei Xingfeng was more well prepared. He wore a thick velvet coat for his underwear, and then a bull leather armor. This kind of leather armor was very special and could withstand the cold. Outside the leather armor was a beast skin coat, and on his head was a leather hat. This leather hat was like a cover, covering the head, neck, and shoulders. Only 2 eyes were exposed, and even the mouth and nose were covered. Even so, Lei Xingfeng was shivering from the cold. He walked with difficulty and complained loudly, "This wind, it's too damn cold." Chui Zi laughed and said, "You outsiders are too weak. You can't even withstand this little bit of cold wind. Hee, if you encounter a white hair wind, you will probably freeze to death." These 2 fellows were very envious of the others. They wore thick leather robes with a thin layer of leather inside. Their hands and faces were completely naked. They wore a leather hat on their head, but it only covered their ears and the back of their neck. Lei Xingfeng wore thick leather gloves, and he was constantly releasing lightning. His hands were constantly flashing with little electric arcs, making a slight crackling sound. He was using this to warm his hands. Otherwise, they would be completely stiff. The snow on the ground wasn't thick. Because of the strong wind, the snow on the ground was as hard as steel. It wouldn't let people sink into the snow. A rope connected everyone together. The one leading the way was Chui Zi, and the one at the back was Kuang Fu. The others were in the middle. Chui Zi said, loudly, "There's a cave under the cliff in front. We can only stop here today. We can't go any further." Xian Zhaoluan said, "Chui Zi, you can arrange it. Don't ask me." Chui Zi said loudly, "Okay, let's speed up. We must reach there before dark." Lei Xingfeng muttered, "If we can't reach there before dark, will we freeze to death?" Mad Eagle said, "That's right. After dark, no one dares to move around in the wild, not even the locals." Lei Xingfeng said, "The locals, aren't they not afraid of the cold?" Mad Eagle laughed and said, "When it reaches a certain limit, even the locals are doomed." After walking for about 2 hours, they saw a cliff that reached into the clouds. It was covered with crystal-clear icicles, hanging layer by layer on the cliff. Chui Zi said loudly, "We're almost there. Everyone, let's work harder. Once we reach the cave, we can eat." He was a foodie. All he talked about every day was eating. Therefore, he didn't need anything else to tempt him. Just food was enough. Xian Zhaoluan was in front of Crazy Axe. Jean Dia followed behind Chui Zi. Then there were Mad Eagle, Lei Xingfeng, and Tiger Love. There were a total of 7 people. The reason for this arrangement was that if they were in danger, Jean Dia would be in charge of Chui Zi's safety. Xian Zhaoluan would be in charge of Crazy Axe's safety, while Mad Eagle and Tiger Love would be in charge of Lei Xingfeng's safety. Out of the 7, 4 could fly. It was enough to protect the other 3. The wind was getting louder and faster. Chui Zi, who was walking in front, had to use a heavy hammer to support his body. The others were holding steel spears. With every step they took, they had to stab their spears into the hard ground. As the saying goes, looking at a mountain is close to death. The cliff wasn't far, but they still walked for more than an hour. Fortunately, they were all experts. The 2 natives were also quite good. They finally arrived at the bottom of the cliff an hour before the sky turned dark. After walking along the cliff for a while, they heard Chuezi cheering. He had already found the cave on the cliff. Chuezi shouted, "We're here! Ha! We can finally rest. I'm so tired." Even he couldn't take it anymore. They untied the ropes and walked into the cave. The entrance of the cave was covered with icicles like a curtain. However, there was a large piece missing from the side, revealing the entrance. Chuezi said, "Our luck is good. We didn't have any delays today. This is the most difficult stop. If there are any obstacles along the way, we will starve and freeze." Even he was extremely afraid of rushing through the night. Lei Xingfeng walked into the cave and immediately felt a warm breath. He grabbed his hat and let out a long breath. He said, "Wow, I can finally breathe freely. Damn, the outside air is like being pricked by needles." Tiger Love said, "Here, no one dares to stay in the wild for a long time. We are already very good." Chuezi laughed. "You guys are already very strong. Some foreigners don't even dare to leave their houses too far away. They are afraid that they will freeze before they can return to their rooms." Ha! The cave extended downwards. This was a very deep crevice. Cold wind still blew in from the entrance of the cave. Therefore, they had to go deeper into the cave to withstand the cold weather. They walked down the cave. Just as they turned a corner, Chuezi raised his hand and signaled for everyone to stop. Lei Xingfeng immediately heard a faint sound coming from the depths of the cave. Chuezi whispered, "There are people." There was a thick layer of ice on the walls of the cave. After turning a corner, there was no more ice. The dark green walls were covered with water droplets. This was the place where the cold and hot met. Not far away, there was a small pool of water. There was a faint sound coming from the depths of the cave. Chuezi raised his hand and signaled for everyone to stop. Xian Zhaolun whispered, "Be careful. Someone must have come in before us." Kuang Fu whispered, "Let's see who it is first. There is no way we can retreat." Xian Zhaolun nodded and said, "Try to avoid conflict. If there is no other way, don't hold back." Lei Xingfeng already understood the meaning behind Xian Zhaolun's words. This place was the only place to rest for the night. They could not retreat outside. If they could not negotiate with the other party to share the cave, then they could only fight. They could either kill the other party or be killed by the other party. As for retreating to the wild for the night, it was no different from seeking death. The group carefully crept forward. Lei Xingfeng was puzzled. The other party did not have anyone to keep watch. Boom! A huge vibration came from the entrance of the cave. Xian Zhaolun and the rest were all stunned. There was actually a battle inside. Everyone immediately quickened their pace. Since they had already started fighting, there was no need for them to hide. And be careful. Lei Xingfeng was relieved. No wonder there was no one to keep watch. The battle had already started inside. This meant that two groups of people had entered the cave, and they were the third group. A huge space appeared, surrounded by countless hanging stalactites. In the middle of the space was a pool of water that emitted spirals of steam. Surrounding the pool was a bumpy ground. The two groups of people were facing each other across the pool of water. Two of them were fighting on the surface of the pool. When Xian Zhaolun led a group of people in, they immediately attracted the attention of both sides. The two people fighting on the surface of the pool bumped into each other and gently flipped back. They stopped fighting, and both sides stared at the new group of people who had just entered. Lei Xingfeng followed Mad Eagle into the cave. It was not dark inside, and he did not know what material was on the cave walls. The entire cave walls were suffused with a faint green brilliance, illuminating the cave. Relying on his sharp eyesight after cultivation, He could see everything in the cave clearly. There were not many people on either side. Lei Xingfen counted. There were 4 people on the left side and 3 on the right side. Just like the group of people who had entered, there were a total of 14 people in the cave. Xian Zhaoluan's group was the largest. Lei Xingfen looked very carefully. He noticed that there was an injured person in each of the 2 groups. Moreover, their clothes were very unfamiliar. They should not be locals, nor were they people from where they came from. The most peculiar thing was that there was a local in each group. They were all standing far away, looking like they were watching a show. Chapter 157. Xian Zhaoluan and Cui Zi stood in front. When Xian Zhaoluan saw who was present, he let out a sigh of relief.
Jean Dia said
He
weakly,
said lightly, "I know
"You
how
guys
to
continue, we're just
Xian
passing
Feng
by."
laughed bitterly.
It was
He had
Lei
always
Xingfeng's
thought that his
first time
cooking
seeing
skills were
Xian
mediocre,
Zhaoluan,
and in his
being
previous
so
life he
two-faced.
was considered average.
He almost
and
laughed
in this
out
life
loud.
he hadn't improved
What did he mean
much,
by, "You guys
but seeing
continue"?
this bunch of unreliable
Passing by,
fellows, he could
the
only
two
do it
sides
himself.
didn't
At least
dare
the food
to
he
continue
cooked suited
fighting.
his taste.
They knew that
I'll
the people
cook,
who came in
whether
were
it's
not
to be
good
trifled
or
with.
not. You don't
And
have
their
to be
numbers
picky.
were not something
It's
they could
fine as
compare
long as
to.
it's edible.
If they
Hee-hee.
joined one side,
Xian Zhaoluan
then the
said,
other side would be
"I'm
doomed.
not picky."
They could also
It's
see
fine as
that
long as it's
Xian
edible.
Zhaoluan didn't want to interact with Eagle them. And Tiger Love wasn't the place also to make raised their hands, especially since these people were outsiders. Chweezy and Kwang Fu's only request was that the taste was good enough. They just wanted it to be a little salty. I've never seen them before. Ate the food cooked by those who have the ability to come here are not simple. No matter what they cooked, more people, it was better stronger than eating raw so they don't dare to do anything. Lei Xingfeng nodded. If there were only 2 or 3 of us, he took out a huge copper pot the difference and set up a pile of wood. Lei Xingfeng said he filled the pot with lake water and lifted it up. Yes, he lit a fire. They might even team up to chase us away. A red light flashed. Everyone sat around the fire. If we warmed themselves up, won't there be no problem? The other 2 groups were obviously not prepared for this and said, they also lit a fire, problem is that you can't but they did not cook food. Look carefully. Instead, they took out jerky and their roasted it for a while. Similar. Then Lei Xingfeng began to chew on it and had to admit put that fresh meat, Eagle's bacon, made dried meat, dried mushrooms, they had the advantage and some sun-dried fruits. So the other side should be afraid everything of them. Into the copper pot. The 2 sides suddenly took out a salt bowl. But the so-called salt bowl was called a salt ring. Then once he saw the people on both sides retreat was about and sit down to call a truce. It was said that this type of salt bowl was made by drying it in a groove in the rocks, forcefully opening the bowl of salt. He was too lazy to pay attention to the other side. So when he was cooking, best he would add a lot of salt. It was hard enough to come here. He grabbed a large amount of chili and threw it in again. Instantly. Anyway, he had already intimidated the other side. As long as they did not attack, he would not attack either. What was more unbearable was that this guy started to drool again. People to rest. The drool dripped down the corner of his mouth, so they could find a big enough place to rest without disturbing each other. Damn it, I said, and Kwang Fu don't kept urging them to cook. Do you want to drift your walking for a day in this kind of weather? The consumption was not small and said, no wonder Lei Xingfeng come closer. I can smell it. He said, Xingfeng almost knocked everyone over the looked at each other. He said, don't worry, it'll be ready soon. And said, although I can cook, took out a dozen thick pancakes, foaming, and they were all about cooked pancakes. As for each the size of a pot lid, they were even more fingers thick. The pancakes were as hard as bricks, but they didn't know how they had to be torn apart. Their staple and food soaked was in thick broth before they could be which eaten. They would eat after this kind of chowder over a fire. Was not difficult. The only reason they were willing to come along was because they wanted to eat something good. Anyway, he just had to throw in whatever he could think of. After cooking for half an hour, Chweezy and Fu Tu were so anxious that they were stomping their feet. Finally, Lei Xingfeng said, "Okay, Uncle Ling, come and help." Uncle Ling held back his laughter and said, "Okay, I'll do it." Everyone held a huge bowl and ate until they were sweating profusely. The sound of food slurping was extremely tempting. At least the other 2 groups of people had murderous looks in their eyes. They wanted nothing more than to snatch this group of people who were eating and drinking unscrupulously. It was too infuriating. Just by smelling the rich aroma, they could not sit still. However, they all knew that this group of people was not to be trifled with. Fighting over a pot of hot broth was too much. If they did not have anything to eat, it would be fine. But with food, although it was not delicious, it could still fill their stomachs. It was not worth it to fight over it. Lei Xingfeng happened to see the 2 groups of people. Their eyes were like wolves. He whispered, "Be careful, they don't seem to have good intentions." Mad Eagle said, "It's okay, we have a lot of people and are not weak. They won't dare to fight." Xian Zhaoluan said, "Let's try to avoid fighting. It will be troublesome if we get injured here." After cooking 2 big pots of chowder, the 7 big eaters were finally full. Chweezy patted his stomach in satisfaction and said, "Delicious, delicious. Little brother's cooking is not bad." Fu Tu also praised, "It's better than eating at Hanya Castle." Jean Dia slightly raised his head and said lightly, "It's very delicious." Then he went silent. This guy did not have any sense of existence. It was easy to ignore him. Actually, Sister Hong's cooking was not worse than Lei Xingfeng's. But she used less salt, while Lei Xingfeng had a heavy palate. He used a lot of seasonings and even increased the saltiness. These two guys also had a heavy palate, so of course they would find it delicious. Everyone leaned against the cave wall to rest. Lei Xingfeng continued to cultivate. The effect of cultivating here was very good, even better than in Hanya Castle. Of course, he would not let it go. The two groups of people were also cultivating and resting. The three groups of people temporarily calmed down. Only the crackling of the firewood could be heard. After a night of cultivation, everything was peaceful. When Lei Xingfeng woke up, he realized that the two groups of people had already left. He asked, "Uncle Ing, when did they leave?" Mad Eagle said, "They've been gone for a while. It's time for us to leave too." Lei Xingfeng nodded. "Yeah, I wonder how far we'll be going today." He stood up and tidied up his clothes and hat. Xian Zhaoluan had already tidied up and said, "Let's go. We'll be going through the Box Groove Glacier today. It'll be dangerous. Everyone stay alert and eat some dry food. There's no time to burn." Everyone took out some ready-made food, such as braised meat and other cooked food, and quickly ate. Lei Xingfeng was already prepared. He took out a rice ball with braised meat and quickly ate it. Everyone was prepared for this kind of dry food. After all, in the wilderness, there were many times when it was not suitable to start a fire to cook. After 10 minutes, Xian Zhaoluan said, "All right, let's go. We'd rather be early. We don't know if there will be any accidents along the way. More time, and we'll be more relaxed." He was experienced, so of course everyone listened. Walking out of the cave, Lei Xingfeng said in surprise, "Hey, it's snowing." Xian Zhaoluan could not help but curse. Snow here was different from other places, because the wind here was very strong. Once it snowed, the snowflakes would be like knives. If the quality of the robe was not good, it would definitely be torn into pieces in the wind. Everyone was connected by ropes. Hammerhead raised his huge hammer in front of his face. When the snowflakes hit Hammerhead, it actually made a clanking sound of metal colliding. Lei Xingfeng could not help but curse. What the F***CK? So evil! He turned his wrist, and a steel shield appeared in his hand. He said, "Uncle Ing, this is for you." Mad Eagle smiled and took it. He said, "You actually have this kind of thing." Lei Xingfeng handed Tiger Love a shield. He also took out a shield to block the incoming snowflakes. Anyway, they did not need to look at the road. With the ropes to guide them, they would not get lost. Of course, that was on the premise that Hammerhead did not get lost. Mad Eagle said, "The road today is not easy." Lei Xingfeng buried his head behind the shield and only stared at his feet. He followed Mad Eagle step by step. This road was several times more difficult than yesterday. Yesterday, they could not stand the wind. Today, other than the wind, there was also the snowflakes in the wind. The snowflakes here were completely different from the snow Lei Xingfeng had seen in his previous life. It was even different from the snow at Tiger Cliff Castle. The snow here, more accurately, was ice. Not only was it hard, but its edges were also extremely sharp. The snowflakes hit the shield and made clanking sounds. Lei Xingfeng could not help but complain, "This is not F***King Snow. This is a knife. Even a knife is not that powerful." Feng chuckled. "It's just snow. If it were hailstones, that would be unbearable. Of course, with our abilities, we wouldn't be afraid. But if that thing came crashing down, it would be scary. We'd have to rely on our defenses to block it." That you're tuning in to the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.